A sack of potatoes, 1 bag of potatoes. 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 A sack of potatoes, 1 bag of potatoes.
And I am live talking about politics once again. Now, today is kind of special as of right now because apparently Dragon thought we were streaming tomorrow when I told him today. Anyway, I think I will be alone for tonight, but there's so much coverage this week. So let's list them off what happened, and then we will get into the first reaction we need to do. With that being said, usually, I'm doing movies, reviews, but not today. Today we talk about what's going on in Canada in politics because it's very important and because a lot of things happened. I am multi-topic talk, and usually, again, it's not my usual content, but I must say, if you need the sources, go in the description below. And by the way, I am a conservative when we speak about politics, so I have my own bias, and everyone has their own bias, but we need to talk about it before getting into what's going on. So we had a MOU motion, the Memorable of Understanding signed between Ottawa and Alberta, led to a motion in the House of Commons this week. And basically the idea was the opposition wanted to tell, let's do that pipeline, Liberals. Are you really serious with that pipeline? So vote with us to create the pipeline following the MOU paper you signed last week. And that was a play. That was a theater. Mostly because, in fact, they knew, the Conservatives knew the Liberals would never say yes. But they wanted the world to see it. They wanted the Canadian voter to see what is going on. And it happened. So only the Conservative voted for yes for a pipeline. And some of these swing voters that thought Carney would bring the party to the center realized, if they have seen it, they were wrong. They were wrong. Carney is a far left activist as well. He wrote ebook Values that I am currently reading. It's so painful. I have other more interesting books to read, but I did start reading Values, and it's not pretty at all. Anyway, so that MOU was a massive defeat for the Liberals because now they try to justify why they spoke against their own agreement, against their own paper they signed with Alberta. And Alberta doesn't like that because they're like, you told us pipeline and now you tell us no pipeline. Pick a lane. But of course they can't pick a lane. So that was the first big thing that happened. And guess what? It was a very bad week for Carney. And now there was someone crossing the floor yesterday. It's from a sketchy writing that had other weird things going on there. I heard from several different creators that this specific writing as a CCP police station over there. So a Communist Party surveillance base, if we can call it that way. And that writing experienced lots of weird things. 2019, we had a liberal that was vocal about the CCP. He was running in that writing, and there were some allegation from someone he never met and that kind of sank the boat there. And more recently, in that same writing, we had the opposition of the liberals that were basically threatened, and they needed to drop out of the race. There was a freaking bounty on conservative MPs in that writing. But no, now we got that guy that ended up crossing the floor. Well, thank you a lot. That's good. So now sketchy things are happening, and someone crossed the floor. And this is the liberals cheating their way to a undemocratic majority. So we will react to several videos, including question period, and we will talk about censorship, because C9 was talked about in Parliament this week, and this week is also kind of special because this is the last week before the holidays where Parliament was active, because this Friday the House didn't seat. So basically some of the MPs then went back to their hometown where they live, or whatever, maybe their constituency, depending on the cases, but they're out for the holidays again. I feel like they are out more often than they are inside the house. But that's just me, an outsider, looking around and realizing what's going on. So let's get into the first reaction, being a question period on Monday, because we will follow some kind of chronology where we will start off with what started the week. So there we go. I will screen share. Usually it's Dragon Job, but he is not there for now. Hopefully, maybe he will show up at some point. I still wanted to do it because I can do it alone. I know myself. Let's do this. Question period, December 8th.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Christmas is around the corner, but the Liberals are already acting like the Grinch. Canadians are the ones who should be unhappy because of grocery costs. They want delicious, affordable food. But according to Dalhousie University, Canadians will have to pay $1,000 more next year for groceries. So it'll be a total of $17,600 a year, and all because of this government's inflationary taxes and deficits. Why is this Liberal government forcing Canadians to feed a big, big government rather than feeding their families? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I know that it's Monday and my colleagues seem happy, yet the Leader of the Opposition seems to be dreaming. He's talking about an imaginary tax. Canadians know better, Mr. Speaker. There's good news in our budget. Our major measure in this budget is a tax break for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. These measures will help Canada grow. We will grow more jobs. We will grow our economy. I hope the Conservatives are going to wake up before Christmas and vote for our budget, Mr. Speaker.
It's so annoying when they speak about imaginary taxes and such. I've seen a committee recently with a farmer that's directly affected by the taxes, and he was being gaslit and lied to in committee. It was sickening to watch and witness. I just hate so much when these liberals, they stand up and they lie to you the way Jean-Philippe Champagne just did. I don't understand Quebec. Y'all want to freaking separate, yet you elect 44 liars. I am so tired. I am so tired seeing that. Really, these question period are disgusting. We still cover them because it's politics and I want to show the Liberals' true color, but I feel like we should have reform of what can be said in Parliament. They should be honest. Taxpayer pay for their pay. And dodging question like that with a lie and a gaslight. And then he says, oh yeah, Canadian, they know it, they see it. Really, we see, based on several polls, that despite the smear campaign against the Conservative are neck to neck with the Liberals, and they don't have the media on their side. Well, the Liberals clearly have the media on their side. So it's just fascinating. I just cannot stand most of these Liberals. They're not Liberals, they are communists, and they push down people's throat regulation and laws and dictatorship. This is what they want. And their action, they prove they're not Liberals. They are pro-censorship. And now, based on what Pierre said, the angle of attack is really affordability, because that's one of the biggest issues. And I really hope, finger crossed, Pierre survives his leadership review despite floor crossing. And I can bet they will cheat their way to a majority, and we will have another person crossing the aisle next month. I can bet that. I know already what's going on, and I'm scared because maybe Pierre will lose that leadership review just because of that. But that'd be so annoying, because that means Evil won this time around, because they cheated their way to a majority, and we would lose a great leader. And this is exactly what the left wants. This is exactly what the media wants. They don't want a strong leader like Pierre Poilievre. They want a puppet like Mark Carney. They installed Mark Carney. They defended Mark Carney. Even like many months, 8 months since Carney got elected, he didn't do squat, and yet they still defend the guy. He's a golden boy. Anyway, Canada is doomed.
Mr. Speaker, this Christmas, the Prime Minister is the Grinch of the grocery store. Yep. According to Dalhousie University, the cost of groceries will be up $1,000 in 2026 for a total of $17,600 just to feed a family of four. The Liberal Grinch, who brings in an industrial carbon tax on the farm equipment, fertilizer, and food processors. The Liberal Grinch with a food packaging tax. The Liberal Grinch with a $78 billion inflationary deficit. Will he get rid of all of these hidden grocery taxes so Canadians can feed themselves at Christmas?
They won't, because that's revenue.
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's Monday and we have good news. Canadians knows it. It's all in the budget, Mr. Speaker. There's a lot of good news. On peut pas lever le livre de cette façon là.
One can't raise a book like that. It's one thing to read or quote from it, but we can't wave it around.
Speaker.
That's parliamentary rule, and I think that shows we got a really good speaker, because that's a Liberal calling on another Liberal. I think the integrity of the Liberal in the chair right now, the speaker, is amazing. And that's one of the few Liberal MP I actually respect, but most of them, they don't belong in Parliament. That's just how I feel about them. Like that result right now,
I think that the budget would be a great Christmas gift, Mr. Speaker, to all Canadians. I would just hope that the Conservative would wake up and make sure that they vote for the budget before Christmas, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build our nation. We're going to create jobs. We're going to build housing. We're going to create infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, this is the best gift they can give to Canadians. I just hope they'll do the right thing for the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
If they want to combat their own cost of living crisis, the Liberals would focus on approving pipelines that would sell more oil, boost our Canadian dollars so Canadians could buy affordable food and homes. In fact, there was such a pipeline, the Northern Gateway. Liberals killed it in a 2016 cabinet decision, a decision the Prime Minister supported. They further blocked it with a Liberal ban on tanker traffic off the northwest BC coast. The Prime Minister claims to have changed his mind in a recent MOU. So will he be able to change the minds of fellow Liberals and vote for his own MOU and allow a pipeline to the Pacific?
We already know the answer, but communities bringing up the question period that's
because the Conservatives are divided. The Conservative premiers across this country support this MOU in
its optic. Option is one of the biggest liar there is. I cannot stand. It's just another Liberal. I don't understand who vote for these guys. Maybe they just see red, they vote red.
its entirety. The leader of the opposition is
But
seeking
they're
to
the one that
divide
divide,
this
but
country,
they
and we
call
can
out
see through
careful
that
their
cynical
divides.
tactic.
Sure.
The MOU is about building a strong country. It's about doing it in an environmentally responsible way in partnership with Indigenous peoples. It would be great if the opposition joined all the other Conservatives and all of us in building this country strong.
Well, he suggested you guys to do it, so he supports that MOU. So it doesn't make sense. It's not a debate right now. It's hilarious. Anyway, they will speak for that pipeline for quite some time, and I will just jump to the far left speaking out because they are entertaining. Oh, that one is also kind of good. I like that one usually. So we will play it from here.
Put the partisan games aside and join us in building a strong and resilient Canadian economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Montmorency-Charlevoix. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the Conflict of Interest Act, it is clearly noted that ministerial staff, for example, are not allowed to get any gifts or other benefits. The Journal de Montréal stated this morning that 10 people connected to the Liberal Party of Canada received $1,000 each for services rendered during the last leadership race for the current leader of the Liberal Party of Quebec. Can the Prime Minister finally explain to Quebecers what's all this Liberal flim-flamming about?
This is the second time around that's being asked.
The Conflict of Interest Act doesn't apply. Does not apply to the province. This is a federal statute. Does anyone want to answer that one? The Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, like the member and Canadians know full well, provincial and federal parties are independent from one another. Canadians can get involved in provincial politics. If someone does so, it's on a personal level, and we, of course, expect all staff members and former staff members of the government act in an exemplary fashion.
They expect that, but they don't do it, first of all. And second, I think the parallel that he tried to draw is how the federal Liberal are the same as the provincial federal. That's why he brought the corrupt provincial Liberals. So I think he's trying to say a Liberal is a Liberal regardless of province or I should say country-wise. Yeah, federally or provincially. They are all the same, and I think that was the point.
With regards to every statute.
Nunavut fishery is an underdeveloped economic engine, as QIA keeps saying. As a result of Liberal decisions, BC and Newfoundland hold more than 80% interest in their coastal fisheries, but Nunavut gets only half. Fisheries infrastructure like the deep sea force in Qikiqtakjuk is left unfinished. Will the Liberals finally treat Inuit like a full economic partner so they can benefit from local resources?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
The way the Liberals have been governing, at least under Carney and a bit under Trudeau as well, but they don't really consult others. That's their way or no way. It's the highway. It's always what the Liberals do. So they don't know how to use diplomacy. They don't know how to work with others, just like dictators. And that's the honest answer, but now we will get a Liberal answer, which is a lie. Let's get into it.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to reassure my colleague across the aisle that the conversations are still happening. No decision has been made, and I encourage the participation as we move forward before making a decision. Thank you.
Please, she didn't gaslight as much as others do.
It being 3:11, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the amendment of Mr. Jennings to the motion.
So, coming next, we got December 9th. And then we will cover some of the C9 committee we had this week. So let's get into it. Screen share. Screen share. There we go.
The Honourable oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canada needs a pipeline to the Pacific so that we can sell more of our product outside of the United States to other countries, make our economy more independent, strengthen the Canadian dollar, and the purchasing power of all Canadians. The Prime Minister has always been against, but now, last week, he did an about-face in Alberta. But when he came back here, there was a rebellion in his caucus. So I took the words from his agreement. Is he going to vote for those words, or can't we believe his words? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Memorandum of Understanding is not something that you can pick and choose from. The opposition leader chose a few words, but not all the words. He forgot the industrial carbon price, the strengthening of that price. He forgot the methane regulations. He forgot net zero 2050. You have to eat the entire meal, not just the appetizer. Eat the entire meal. Well, that would be great if Canadians could buy a full meal, Mr. Speaker. But he's talking about a carbon tax that continues to apply on equipment for farmers, on fertilizer, on those who deliver foods to our stores. And it's causing food inflation to the point that it now is going to cost $17,000 to feed a family of four for a year. Why not get rid of these taxes on groceries so that Canadians can feed their families? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, there is no carbon tax on Canadian farms, which have emissions below 50 kilotons. The impact of the industrial carbon tax on the price of food in Canada, according to the Climate Institute, is about zero.
By the way, I gotta say, more gaslight and lies from Carney, because this is all Liberal can do. Oh, these taxes don't exist, but why are the farmer paying them? Why is food so costly? It's because there are taxes. Guess what? They need revenue, and obviously the government doesn't want us to be competitive in Canada, and they don't realize we need to if we want to survive. What money will pay for all of these services, all these aids, and all of the gift the Liberal pretend to give. We are broke. We can't afford it. But hey, it's Canada, and we don't get it. We don't understand. We keep voting these people in.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canada needs a pipeline to the Pacific to sell $30 billion of our energy overseas, outside of the U.S. market, making us more independent, self-reliant, our dollar, and therefore Canadians' purchasing power stronger. The Prime Minister always opposed the pipeline, which his party killed, but last week he flip-flopped and promised while he was in Alberta in a deal that he would build such a pipeline. So I took the very wording right out of that deal and put it into a motion before the House of Commons. He experienced a massive rebellion in his own caucus, but if he's going to vote against his own words, how can Canadians ever believe his words?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the Canadian national cricket team knows, you got to play the whole T20.
That's so cringe, all of these sport reference. I just cannot stand it.
It's not just a couple of overs. It's not just the pipeline. It's not just pathways. It is a price on industrial price on carbon that goes to $130 effective. It is reductions in methane. It is net zero 2050. It is building Alberta strong, Canada strong, durable, sustainable, and...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
By the way, Guibault last week, and we have that on tape on the channel, was saying we will never reach that with the current state of our carbon emission and whatever. We will never reach that. That's one. Second, one of the biggest reasons why we are so broke, it's because we got laws that are really terrible that stop us from selling our oil and resources overseas. There's also a tanker ban, but only for Canadian, not the USA, you know? So they can use the water, we can't. This is what's going on. The MOU was trying to bypass that, but even Carney didn't want to apply it because he knew his caucus in British Columbia wouldn't support it. They were not there last Friday. So this is what's going on. We got a government that doesn't want to use our resources, so we are broke. Let's move on a bit further in that question period. I think we got a lot of lies, a lot of gaslight. That's like the usual thing there. I feel like maybe we should hear about one of these blog people, because even if I disagree with the blog people, sometimes I think they mark fair points.
School food program that is saving $800 for the most vulnerable families. They voted against affordable housing, Mr. Speaker. They voted against the dental care system. When he talks about inflationary spending,
they voted against like a so big deficit.
The honourable member from Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. Consultants, bureaucracy, all of that.
Oh, that's a conservative.
No Liberals has stood up to defend the Prime Minister, who said to Canadians, "You will judge me on the price of groceries." That is what he said. 36% of Quebecers face food insecurity. 3 million visits per month to food banks in Quebec. The Prime Minister's wealthy friends are certainly not affected by the reality of families skipping meals. They have enough money. They eat their fills. He promised to lower food prices. He misled Canadians. Will he stop his inflationary spending so that families can finally eat their fill, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister. In the previous answer, Mr. Speaker, I listed everything against which they voted that supports people in his riding, Quebecers and Canadians from coast to coast to coast. We were elected to give opportunities to all Canadians and to all Quebecers, and that's what we're doing. 54,000 jobs created in November, 67,000 in October, 60,000 created in September. Unemployment is going down, inflation is going down, Mr. Speaker, because on this side of the House, we are building the strongest G7 economy. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that we needed to judge him on the cost of groceries. 8 months later, the price of food has exploded and families can't feed themselves. The 2026 report forecasts a worsening situation in Saguenay. 70 organizations that offer food assistance confirm that requests have gone up faster than what is available. When will the Prime Minister end his inflationary spending so that Canadians can eat their fill?
I will also add this. When people don't have the money, they don't give because they don't have the money. So part of the food bank is not replenished when people are broke. And when people are broke, they use the food bank. So it's a never-ending circle of we are broke, we can't eat. It's so disgusting. It really feels like Russia, Soviet Union style. It's ridiculous.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize how good my colleagues' local teams are, hockey-wise, but what he doesn't recognize is that no one in the Saguenay is saying, take these programs away. Remove the school food program. We don't like it. Remove support for organizations. We don't like it. Remove support for volunteers. We hate that. Remove the housing benefits. No one is saying that in the Saguenay, Mr. Speaker. The member should vote with us to keep these supports for the people of the Saguenay and elsewhere in our country. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord.
I thought we had the block at some point. I was wrong. Is the block next? Not even next. So I don't know why, but I thought we had the block and we don't have the block. But I think it's still valid. So let's move on to, oh, that's the block guy. Is it the block guy? I think that's the block guy.
Would the President update the House what came out of this summit and how this work will help cut red tape, speed up approvals, and strengthen Canada's economy?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
National President, I would like to thank my colleague for this excellent question. Struggling to.
Apparently no block, but we got Don Davies.
For Vancouver Kingsway.
The former Liberal Environment Minister says this government approved a bitumen pipeline that abandons Canada's climate goals and risks BC's coast. In this House, the Prime Minister said British Columbia and impacted First Nations must agree to this project. In BC, the Energy Minister claimed free, prior, and informed consent is required. But the MOU signed between Ottawa and Alberta says no such thing. Liberals are telling one story here, another in BC, and yet another in Alberta. Canadians deserve to know, is consent for this pipeline required or not?
That angle of attack is really telling the NDP want to siphon away the green freak. And I think they will succeed because the sole fact that you brought this on the table and that you seem to be open, you already ticked off all of the people that are against pipeline. And they will most likely not vote for Liberal. So that's a big chunk. That's a big base. That's what happens when you have the Liberal base where you got so many ends and so many different bags. Eventually, you won't be able to like functionally get your money because some people won't be satisfied anyway.
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was very clear in this House. He said that the agreement requires agreement from British Columbia, requires the agreement of First Nations. That has been said in this House, and we stand by that right here, right now, and we will continue to.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One section of the enormous Bill C-15, over 600 pages of omnibus budget bill, that's not yet been even mentioned in this place, and it wasn't mentioned in the budget either. So the idea that the Budget Implementation Act just implements things in the budget is belied by pages 301 to 304, with it exempt at ministerial discretion the application of Canadian law to any entity, which could be people or corporations, at the discretion of the minister with no public oversight. Can anyone here, particularly the Minister of Finance, explain?
Okay, I don't agree with May. I cannot stand her in general when it comes to politics. I think she sounds like a lovely person based on interviews I've seen with her, but that line of questioning is great. So C-15 is a big power grab that undermines a lot of the regulation and laws around cabinet and conflict of interest, and they just trample all over what's in place right now to make sure the power is in check, and they need to pass by parliament to pass through structure and legislation. But with C-15, it undermines parliament in so many different ways. It's disgusting. I don't know enough of it. I've seen videos about it, but I'm not the most informed, so I will stop here. But it's a big power grab, basically, and it's not good. And for Elizabeth May to just use that angle to attack the Liberals, I like it. I'm in for that. Let's do this, May. I disagree with you, but I like your question.
I agree with the member that the budget bill is full of really great measures for this country. But one thing we can all acknowledge is that Canada has world-class innovators and entrepreneurs, those of whom will help us build the strongest economy in the G7. As part of that process, we're reducing red tape to broaden the use of something called regulatory sandboxes to help foster and spur research and development and innovation. We'll do this in a responsible way, in a forward-looking way, and in a temporary way. These will be authorizations that are limited, but these will help us keep up with the speed of innovation in
That's
this
more
country.
lies.
Thank you.
It's not limited at all.
And that concludes question period.
So, before we get into the next segment, being about C9 and that kind of stuff, we must
You are listening to the Bureau Chiefs with Michael Serapio.
Briefly about C9, briefly about filibuster. I will also screen share something about filibuster. So basically, filibuster, it's a way to stall legislation in the Canadian Parliament. And why would we do that? Well, C9 is very dangerous. C9 idea is they want to reduce threshold for hate speech, and they want to use it against political enemies, against tweets, against so many different things. They basically want to turn Canada into the UK, where you can be jailed for what you say in a very, very easy way. And their excuse is we need to protect people, we need to deal with hate. But there's the big thing. We already have laws. We already have the hate speech aspect to freedom of expression, where if you incite to violence or to prejudice against a group of people that are protected, you can spend some time in jail. But there's also that big safeguard where we got the Attorney General of the province that come to evaluate and look into the case to see if there's a genuine case of hatred that breaks the hate speech laws. So it's very strict in a way where you can be condemned. But there's the thing. We don't apply it, first of all. And second, we need to be loose on that. Government shouldn't be telling you what you can say or cannot say. And I think the laws we have right now are perfect. But the Liberals, they don't like the laws right now because it's not 1984 Orwell enough. It's not China enough. It's not Soviet enough. It's not UK enough, because the UK, they have fallen. They are no longer what we can call, in all fairness, a democracy, because we got 30 people arrested every day for what they say, which is ridiculous. And now C9 wants to bring this here in Canada. And now the Conservatives are fighting tooth and nail to stop that bill. And this includes filibuster. And based on what I heard, they cannot really repeat stuff they already said, so they need to expand on their ideas, and they need to change things. So let's share right now what AI has to say about filibuster in Canada. So let's share that. A filibuster in Canada is a delaying tactic used by opposition MPs or senators to block or amend bills by talking at length, proposing endless amendment, or raising procedural points, historically used to stop controversial legislation like the 1912 Novel Aid Bill, but now less common in the Commons due to closure rule. Thought still possible, especially in the Senate or Comitee, as seen with recent Arrive Scan debates. So the idea is you speak, you try to waste some time so your meeting is adjourned and the law didn't go through, or didn't go through a vote, or didn't leave your committee. That's the idea there. How it works: prolonged debate. MPs speak for extended period on a bill. Excessive amendment, proposing numerous, sometimes trivial change to a bill to slow proceeding. Procedural points, raising points of privilege or other rules to all debate. And we will see that kind of tactic a lot in a lot of the footage I gathered around that we'll cover very soon. But this is very interesting. So, recent Comitee filibuster in 2024, the Liberals were accused of filibustering a Conservative motion to compel witnesses in the Arrive Scan scandal to appear before a committee, reports the Conservative Party of Canada. Okay, well, the idea really of filibustering is to waste time. And it's very smart when you got very dangerous laws and bill, because sometimes you're not sure if you can win the vote, so you will try your best to stop the vote from happening. So we need that. It's part of politics. It's needed. And yeah, let's get into that. And I got several C9 stuff, so we will get into the C9 stuff. So this is coming from Andrew Lawton, Conservative MP that defends the people. I think the Conservative are doing a great job at defending us and our rights. So this is taken directly from Comitee, and I will screen share that. We won't cover the entire video because it's way too long, but it is there.
I would suggest strongly that we should be looking after C14 right now, and we have to support the motion presented by my colleague, Mr. Brock, and we have to move forward on that one.
Relevance again.
Mr. Chang.
Relevance.
I agree, Mr. Gill. You're still.
So this is a filibuster tactic, because right now we got C14 that's a bail reform shenanigan, and they really want to push forward that bill instead of what we have right now with C9. And I got a crash there. That's tragic. But what is going on is the Conservative MP, he wanted to bring up C14 because that's part of the Justice Committee, and that's the Justice Committee that talks about C9. And I will be honest, that I think that's a new chair that they just got there, and the chair is a liberal, and it's disgusting. I hate that chair. But we got a conservative that tries to divert the discussion into something else because he doesn't want to speak about C9. And that's a filibuster tactic right now. The other factor is Chang, the Liberal MP that complained about the motion. I cannot stand that I don't know how to call him, that child, because he's a child. This is what he is. He is a man-child. That was the word I was searching for. I've seen the guy in many interviews. I'm like, why is he in Parliament? Who voted that guy in? I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't. I'm sorry, folks. I don't get it. So I will be right back because of the crash. There's something wrong with my camera. Okay. So I guess no camera for the rest of the stream because I don't know if I leave what will happen. I don't like it. But yeah.
Still not talking about this bill or more specifically this amendment.
Mr. Chair, if that is the case, then I'll cede my time and then move on. But actually, we should not be stopping anyone to speak when we are talking about the important legislation that need to be discussed at this committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Okay, any other further submissions on Mr. Fortin's proposed amendment? No? Okay, so before we put it to a vote, let me just remind you what I said at the outset. If BQ2 is adopted, Lib 1, CPC 6, and CPC 7 cannot be moved due to a line conflict. Okay, so we'll put it to a vote now.
So BQ, that's Bloc Québécois, and they suggested an amendment to C9 which would ban some religious passage, some religious aspect to the Quran, the Bible, and the Torah, which is very interesting how they attack religion. But that's their angle, and that's the Bloc. I understand them. I don't agree with it. I think freedom of expression should remain, especially with religion. But hey, that's just me, conservative speaking, right? Let's hear more about that.
Yes. On amendment BQ2, I will go with Madame Latenzio.
No.
Monsieur Osfather.
No.
Madame Dillon. Mr. Chang.
No.
Mr. Brock.
No.
Mr. Lawton.
No.
Mr. Baber.
No.
Mr. Gill.
No.
Mr. Fortin.
Oui.
Defeated 1-9.
All right, amendment defeated. Thank you. Okay, so now moving on to...
So the amendment was defeated, so that means whatever they were speaking about in that amendment got removed from the bill, which is very interesting.
Lib 1. Lib 1. So I will give the floor to Mr. Housefather.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a simple amendment. The Hindu communities and some other communities, the Jain community, view the swastika as a holy symbol in their culture. We can refer to the Nazi Hakenkreuz, which is the symbol that used by the Nazis without using the word swastika in the English version of the bill. And so my amendment, all it does is remove the word swastika from the English version of the bill. And I hope that this is something that we can all agree on, given the community's representations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Housefather. Any other submissions on that? No? Okay, so we'll move on to vote on Lib Amendment 1.
On the vote.
On the vote.
Madame Atencio,
In favor?
Monsieur Hausfather,
In favor?
Madame Delin,
Oui.
Monsieur Chang,
Yes.
Mr. Brock,
Yes.
Mr. Baber,
Yes.
Mr. Lawton,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Fortin. Unanimous.
So I will say this. We heard yes from pretty much everyone. So when people are saying conservative or divisive, sometimes they do agree, even with the liberals, which is fascinating. That breaks the narrative that liberals keep pushing down everyone, people throat and whatever. It's very interesting. I like to point that one out. So let's play more of that.
Carried.
Yeah, unanimous.
Okay, amendment carried, which takes us to CPC 6, which I believe is Mr. Brock.
And please read it out.
Hold on. Yeah, hold on.
There is a
Mr. Lutz. Yeah, hold on. Oh, yeah. Sorry, just before you get the floor, Mr. Brock. If CPC 6 is adopted, CPC 7 cannot be moved to a line conflict. Mr. Brock, do you want to speak to this?
Actually, it's Mr. Lawton's motion.
Sorry, Mr. Lawton.
Amendment.
Thank you. So we have raised in the course of our study of C9, study that has been sadly shortchanged because of liberal obstruction, that there are grave concerns with a number of sections of this bill, how it will affect civil liberties, how it will affect, in some cases, the very communities that the liberal government claims it will protect. And there have been several concerns raised specifically about the section on hate symbols. And we will be discussing those more thoroughly when we get to the clause at hand. But if we are to, as a committee and as a parliament, enumerate hate symbols, symbols that have vile meaning, symbols that carry a death toll that often bring up a lot of trauma to various communities, we need to be thorough with it. So I am proposing the following amendment, that Bill C9 in Clause 4 be amended by adding after line 3 on page 2 the following: B.1, the communist symbol known as the hammer and sickle, or B, by replacing line 5 on page 2 with the following, scribed in paragraph A, B, or B.1, that it is likely to be. So in layman's terms, this is adding the hammer and sickle, the communist insignia, to the list of hate symbols. Communism has a death toll of 100 million people around the world. People have died as a result of dangerous and harmful ideology perpetrated by that. I've had a number of concerns raised by people who have lived under communist rule in Cuba, in Eastern Europe, people who see this as being an incredible evil that needs to be stamped out. The Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin from the 20s to the 50s saw some of the worst mass repression in history and mass killings, from the Great Purge to Gulag forced labor camps, collectivization and terror famine, a death toll in the Soviet Union of up to 27 million. You have in China under Mao Zedong, the Communist Party carrying out massive repression, causing the deaths of tens of millions through executions and labor camps and man-made famines. You have Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge from 75 to 79. One of the worst episodes of mass killing in the history of the 20th century, with up to 2 million people killed, including, that's around 25% of Cambodia's population. So if we are to describe what hate symbols are in law, we need to acknowledge the death toll of the hammer and sickle. So I move this amendment for consideration, that it be added to the list. Thank you.
So it's very interesting. I understand his line of argument saying it can bring back really bad memories, and I do agree, but I'm an absolute defender of absolute freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So as much as I come from that spot, I understand his line of argument. Again, I think he makes valid points. And he really wants to point out that if the liberals reject is line of questioning, that means they have another goal than just fighting hate. Because let's be honest, communism, there's a lot of hate because it caused so many people their death. That's exactly what's going on. They died from it. And it's a very interesting question that I like. And considering they really want to censor, or rewind, considering they really want to push for censorship, I think adding that hammer there is actually a very fair point, especially with that line of questioning and that thought process by banning the communist hammer. So let's see how the room will vote for that. The room that wants to protect people from hatred and harm. Let's see what they have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Lawton. Anybody else? Mr. Barber?
I have to give it to my friend, Mr. Lawton, really. As some committee members have heard by now, I was born in the Soviet Union, and I lived in the Soviet Union until 1989. And frankly, when I look at the hammer and sickle, I'm scared. I appreciate Mr. Housefather's previous amendment, and I appreciate his sentiment, as we both come from the same community with family who was deeply affected by the Holocaust. But I can tell you that my family has also been significantly affected by communism. And I frankly do not see much of a distinction between the two. The hammer sickle represented collective oppression. If I could maybe summon my thoughts here, this is definitely interesting. I'm not sure if Mr. Lawton mentioned that it is estimated that subsequent to the World War, more than 20 million Soviet citizens who were murdered by the communist regime. And it wasn't just confined to Jews, it was everyday people, Ukrainians, intelligentsia, anyone who had any type of microphone, press members, educators. And so I view it as a hate symbol, and I believe that it is a hate symbol because it drives the extreme of collectivist ideology.
I will pause here. Usually I don't like pausing like that, but I must say it. This is exactly what's going on. The government right now with C9 wants to decide what is hate speech. And Barber point is very valid. It's a struggle, and he highlights the idea that C9 really wants to censor stuff based on the narrator, based on what whoever made that law thinks it should be done. So it's like playing judge and jury, which is a very slippery slope. And the other thing I want to say is Barber is using up time, which is great. Anyway, it's a great line of questioning right now, and to hear someone that lived through communist regime, I wish all of these scholars that are for communism see that kind of clip and realize maybe they got it all wrong. Maybe these scholars that thinks they are so above everyone because of degrees are maybe not so above because they didn't experience live on what they studied. So let's hear more.
Where the state says, not my way or the highway, but my way or murder. And I hope that all my friends from around the table will support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Any other discussion on that point? No? Okay.
I'm going to vote.
Yeah, there's no more. No, we're going to vote. Okay, so we're on
CPC.
okay, Sal CPC carry. CPC 6 carry, sorry.
On the vote. Yes, so Madame Latenzio? Mr. Housefather?
Against.
Madame Delin? Mr. Chang?
Against. The Cheng guy, I cannot stand him. Who voted that guy in? Another Asian guy that defends communists. Everyone that said against, and you're for every other amendment, or you think you should push censorship, look unto yourself. Really, you must pull back and think. What do you advocate truly for? It's so disgusting to see so many people against the idea to label the communist thing as hate speech while they get amendment that will censor people. I just find that so frustrating and sad. I don't want communism. And my kids, once I have them, if I ever have kids, they won't live through communism. We will move elsewhere, the land of the free. So yeah, it should spark outrage, really.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Baber?
Yes.
Mr. Lawton?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Fortin?
No.
Defeated 5-4.
I don't understand Fortin. Like, he is probably from the bloc, but the guy is for the ban of church word and church speeches, but then he is against labeling the hatred symbol of communism. Is against that idea. I cannot stand Fortin. I cannot stand the guy.
Okay, so CPC 7, which is Mr. Brock this time, I believe, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, CPC 7.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the majority, if not all of us at this committee are lawyers. We can all think back to first-year law when we took statutory interpretation, and the overriding rationale that I remember so long ago, several decades ago, was to always seek clarity when drafting laws. And it's no more important when it comes to the Criminal Code of Canada. In my view, after some almost 2 decades of prosecuting and about 14 years of defending, as the criminal code currently exists, there are so many areas that really require significant editing. So what I bring to the table as a parliamentarian now is the ability to ensure that there are no gray areas when it comes to statute interpretation, that we strive and we look at the criminal code in terms of what's black and what's white. And what is existing right now in C9, specifically subparagraph 2.2 sub C, as worded, a symbol that so nearly resembles a symbol described in paragraphs A and B that is likely to be confused with that symbol. I don't know what that means. It is so.
The liberal are not black and white. We are in late stage liberalism, as Dragon usually says. And I like Brock. He is on the facts, but not the liberals. That's why they draft that kind of law. And that's also to make sure you don't dissent.
So vague. There is no definition section as to what a like symbol would mean. What does likely to be confused with mean? Would that be an objective standard? Would that be a subjective standard? So in terms of the rationale for the amendment that I seek, it's to seek precision, to seek clarity, and to remove that type of language goes a long way. Thank you, Chair. That's my explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. More than anything, you just reminded me how old I am. Mr. Haber, over to you.
I actually remember being taught over breath. It was by a former cabinet Liberal minister, Mr. Bentley, taught me first year criminal law, and he made the criminal law come to life, for me at least. Of course, as the chair knows, I did not become a criminal attorney, but nonetheless, I appreciate Mr. Brock's input here. So if I just look at the section, and if we could please read it, and if I could please ask my Liberal colleagues to look at subsection C, which is what Mr. Brock's amendment is targeting. A symbol that so nearly resembles a symbol described in paragraph A or B that it is likely to be confused with that symbol. So my point is very simple. If it can be confused, then it should not be criminal.
I agree with that.
I'd like to offer an example. Some folks might say that if you take out the language inside the Canadian Tire triangle, it might resemble a symbol used by the Hamas terrorist organization. They sometimes use a triangle to indicate who the next target ought to be. God forbid. I would say I could probably get around that because that might be incitement to violence, right? Mr. Housefather, ironically, you could probably say that the Hamas triangle is incitement to violence. But I don't want to be watching a Christmas commercial for Canadian Tire thinking that it might be confused with a Hamas triangle. So may I suggest this amendment is really made in good faith to try and not be overbroad. And again, if it is likely to be confused with the actual symbol.
They want it broad as can be, so they can press as much charges as they can. This is where we are heading to, top crimes. So let's screen share another of these juicy Comitee videos. So that's the next one.
On behalf of my constituents of Bowmanville, Oshawa North, to oppose Bill C-9 and support efforts to further scrutinize and study this legislation, I share my time with the member from York Centre. Mr. Speaker, there are many problems with Bill C-9 and the Liberal attempt to amend Bill C-9 to criminalize the reading and sharing of Bible verses in this country. We oppose this for many reasons, but I do want to draw attention to an area that has not gotten enough attention, which is the efforts of the Liberal Party to enact a form of cultural imperialism on Christians, Muslims, and Jews in this country. I want to share with you, Mr. Speaker, an academic definition of cultural imperialism, because I am sure many in the House probably are not used to hearing that term to describe what the Liberal Party is attempting to do to citizens of our country.
It's funny because it says that is right. Usually it's the Liberal language, so they won't use it against themselves. They will only use it against their political opponents. So right now, I think General Giovanni is calling on to the far left people, and that will resonate with them, and that will cause outrage. So let's hear more.
This definition comes from EBSCO, a research database published in 2024. And the definition reads, as I say, cultural imperialism refers to the imposition of one culture's values, beliefs, and practices over another, often leading to the erosion of the latter's unique cultural identity. It manifests through various mediums, including education, religion, and media, where dominant cultures often shape and redefine the social and ethical frameworks of less dominant societies. Cultural imperialism causes changes that are usually faster than would otherwise occur, and in a direction that benefits those from the dominant or influencing culture. The faster pace can mean that the changes have a destabilizing effect on other aspects of the culture, and the association of the changes with benefits accruing to members of the dominant culture. Taken together,
right now the dominant culture is let's hate lots of religion, especially the Christian. So yeah.
That means that one party is benefiting from actions that are harmful to others. Now, Mr. Speaker, I share this definition to provide some context for what I believe the Liberal Party is doing right now. They've been in power for over a decade and tried their very best to exercise influence over every institution in this country. They've abused the power of the federal government.
I will bring some example you didn't bring up. Number one, the trucker convoy. It's always the first one because it's the biggest one. That was my wake-up call. That was the moment I went from center-left to actually center-right. So the Freedom Convoy was the first time they abused their power. What was the second time? In recent memories, the second time was the Air Canada fiasco last summer. And we can say they abuse their power each time they are in ethic breach or there is a scandal where they got money they shouldn't have gotten, like the green slush fund. We got so many scandals under them, so he's damn right. Like, the last 10 years, the Liberals are a circus, and Carney is a great clown.
To impose their values, beliefs, and practices on as many institutions in our country,
including
as they
the law
possibly
right
can.
now with C9.
And today, we see evidence that they, through Bill C9 and the Liberal effort to amend Bill C9, an effort to exercise that cultural imperialism over churches, mosques, and synagogues. I provided an academic definition for cultural imperialism, but I would also like to provide a pop culture reference. The hit song from last year, Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, he uses some language to describe colonial thinking in his diss track to Drake. He says, and I quote, "You not a colleague, you a colonizer." And that, Mr. Speaker, is precisely what the Liberal Party is attempting to do to Christians, Muslims, and Jews in this country. Liberals are not treating the diverse communities of our country with any degree of respect. They are not treating them like colleagues to listen to them. And
no, if you are a conservative, you are a conspiracy guy or girl, and you're against democracy and that kind of stuff. And this is the kind of narrative there is right now from the establishment. I heard in the House of Commons a freaking liberal calling a conservative a fascist. It's so disgusting.
Work with them and respect their traditions and their faiths. Instead, they are behaving like colonizers, attempting to abuse state power to exercise undue influence by attempting to criminalize things that families in this country have believed in since the very founding of this nation by the English and the French. Now, they will, of course, as they have throughout this morning and this afternoon, made efforts to characterize our concerns over this legislation as theatrics. But I bring it back to what was said, the actual language used by the now Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture, who was promoted, Mr. Speaker, by the Prime Minister after he made these comments. As chair of the Justice Committee on October 30th, he said that 3 books of the Bible, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Romans, are hateful. He used the language of hate to describe verses in the Bible that people have prayed over, they have read to their children, they have shared in communities all across this country for a very long time. And the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that the Liberal Party pretends, and I emphasize, Mr. Speaker, pretends to care about, enshrines the right to religious freedom precisely as a sign of respect for the fact that there are things the government should not have its fingerprints on. The government should not be making its way into churches, mosques, and synagogues in an effort to bring liberal values and use the criminal justice system to enforce liberal values on the private religious lives of Canadian citizens.
And I'll also bring this up. Maybe I'm going too far with that, but let's do it. Who did that in the 1930s? The Nazi. Yes, they did that. Who's doing it right now? The liberals. Don't you see a link? Socialists wants to give them power, they abuse it. So let's play more.
But that is precisely what a colonizer would do. That is precisely what a cultural imperialist would do. It would look at churches, mosques, and synagogues and say, how can the federal government get their way in there? And it is wrong. It is unethical, and it is against the traditions of this country. It is an insult to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Now, I want to say, Mr. Speaker, one thing I have observed in the relatively short time that I have been a member of Parliament is that the Liberal Party does this, I don't know what you would call it, mind games, false presentation, making an effort to convince Christian, Muslims, and Jews of various cultural backgrounds that they respect them. They make this effort to show we want to hear you and welcome you into Canadian politics. I've seen them with my own eyes, Mr. Speaker, in the Toronto area, running around at cultural events, running around at cultural holidays, eating samosas and jerk chicken and pretending that they respect people from diverse community backgrounds. They run around and they offer people DEI and slogans like diversity is our strength. They say all kind of funny things, diversity, vote for me, you know, that kind of attitude that they bring around our communities. And then what do they do, Mr. Speaker, when they come to Ottawa? What they do is they want to culturally imperialize the people of this country and their children. They actually have no respect for diversity at all, at all. And any Christian, Muslim, or Jew whose ancestors come from any part of the world must be able to unite in recognizing that the Liberal Party has no respect for our religions, our traditions, or our values. They believe that the federal government is superior to us, and they believe they have the right to impose their values on our churches, mosques, and synagogues. You know, I believe when we talk about the language of colonizers and culturally imperialists, we have to recognize that when they attack Scripture, when they attack the Bible, when they attack our religions, when they try to justify bringing the criminal justice system into our places of worship, what they are doing is trying to strip away the things that make us well-rounded people. To them, we are simply economic inputs. We should have no culture. They believe we should have no meaning in our lives. They offer us nihilism. They offer us the chance to be a column on a spreadsheet used to calculate GDP. That's all they think of us.
Or votes.
And the efforts that we make to be well-rounded people, to be part of a community, to believe in something, to have conviction, to be connected to the traditions of our fathers, our mothers, our grandfathers, our grandmothers, they ridicule and they insult. They call it hateful to believe that we come from something. But Mr. Speaker, we stand on the shoulders of giants who sacrificed for us to be here. They sacrificed for us to have the life that we have today. And we will not denounce the very people who make our lives possible. We will not denounce the cultures and traditions that they come from. And we will not sit here quietly and idly while the Liberal Party seeks to call our ancestors hateful. We will not accept that. We will reject their cultural imperialism. We will call them colonizers when they behave like colonizers. And in closing, I will suggest, Mr. Speaker, that one of the reasons they denigrate Canadian history, one of the reasons that they keep the Canadian flag at half-mast for a year, one of the reasons they support teaching our children in this country that our country should be ashamed of its own history is because they are embarrassed by what they see in the mirror. And they have not learned the lessons from history. And they repeat the mistakes made in history to colonize and imperialize over other people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And unfortunately, there is a great clip with him having a fight with someone else that I've seen floating around. I liked it a lot. I forgot. Okay, so unfortunately, I could not find that clip. I really tried hard to find it again for today's stream. Instead, I picked another one that's more recent, that's very funny as well. Well, funny. Depressing and frustrating, because that chair at the committee is just disgusting. Hopefully, in the winter, once they come back, that guy will be out the window and we will have someone else. But I suspect Carney placed him there because it would roadblock and filibuster the filibuster of the Conservative and bring some pushback. So let's screen share the next clip about C9 censorship and the disgusting part. So let's get into it. Is it the right one? There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I speak, of course, in favor of Mr. Lyon's amendment. You know, tomorrow morning there will be hundreds, if not thousands, of churches across our country that open their doors to feed their neighbors. There will be hundreds, if not thousands, of churches across our country who open their doors to offer counseling to heartbroken couples at risk of separating. There will be hundreds of thousands of churches that open their doors to help people overcome addiction and a whole host of other challenges. And the message these churches should be receiving from their government is respect, encouragement, and gratitude for the services they provide for struggling people and for people who need hope. And instead, what they are getting from their government is ridicule, disrespect, and outright attacks on their foundational beliefs, the very beliefs that motivate them to be good citizens and good neighbors, good fathers, good mothers. It's kind of a crazy situation we find ourselves in to even be having this conversation. And in the process of disrespecting these very important Canadian institutions, we have seen hypocrisy exposed on the part of two political parties in this room. On the part of the Bloc Québécois, we see a political party who says they are very concerned about the overreach of the federal government, and yet comes here to Ottawa begging for that federal government to have more power over the people who send them here. Shamefully. Yeah. On you. You are a hypocrite. Oh. On the part of the...
All right, Mr. Giovanni, I know you just arrived an hour ago. We had a discussion, a thorough discussion earlier on about language and decorum. Oh. And people from all sides agreed not to be making accusations and using language like that.
Oh, so I wasn't here to make that agreement.
Well, okay, but nonetheless, you said it, and it's inappropriate. So I'm going to ask you to apologize.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
All right, well, then we'll move on to the next speaker. Mr. Lawrence, you have the floor.
Point of order, Chair.
No, what's your point of order? What's your point of order?
Look at James Maloney. He is trampling all over the freaking time Jamil Javani used to speak. He's trampling over his right to speak. He silences him. So imagine a government that has C9 as a weapon. What do you expect with that kind of people within their government that try to silence dissent right now? Of course they will abuse of that power. Of course they
It's
will.
a point of order, Chair. Chair, first of all, there is no precedent for calling the specific language that Mr. Giovanni used unparliamentary. Members are welcome to disagree with it, but the whole discussion in this bill, I think, is about the fact that speech you might disagree with is not necessarily speech that should be made illegal.
Yeah, Mr. Janice, you're now getting to debate. You've made your point of order.
I'm debating the matter of order.
No, you've made your point of order.
Oh,
You're
so
now
now-
in debate. I'm going to stop.
Not only he trampled over Jamil Giovanni, but right now he is trampling all over Garnet. That chair is godly awful. That chair is partisan. That chair want to steamroll that bill. That chair is like, I'm not here to have a good faith argument. I'm not here to have a constructive discussion. That chair is here to assert dominance. It reflects so very well the current liberal we have in power. Someone that's hungry, someone that's a junkie, that's always after more power, 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 power. It's sickening. And the worst than that, whoever voted that guy in, they probably will never see this crap. And if they do, maybe they will agree with the guy. That's the worst part of it.
Stop you from speaking now. Mr. Giovanni called a member of parliament a hypocrite. He did not, and I'm moving on to the next speaker,
Point of
which is
order.
Mr.
I was
Lawrence.
also going to call the Liberal Party a party of colonizers and imperialists. So just to add that
to the speakers list later on. It's
Sure,
late
please
in the
add me
evening.
to the
We're not
list.
going to tolerate that type of behavior. Mr. Lawrence, the floor is
Happy
yours.
to say that again.
Point of order.
Fine, you can challenge my ruling. That's your right. Chair.
So I will say, I feel like Jamil Giovanni's speech there was another way to filibuster because he was criticizing the law, but he took his time into doing so, and that's really good. Keep doing it.
There is a standing order that allows us to be appealed directly to the speaker if you deprive him of the floor. You probably don't know that, but it was adopted as part of a provision that Bardish Chagger brought forward.
All right, thank you.
I will say this, he knew it, he doesn't care. The guy trampled all over other people. So, yeah, even if he knew, he wouldn't care.
Thank you, Mr. Janice.
You're welcome.
Be sustained. Madame Latanzio. In favor. Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Madame Dillon. Mr. Housefather.
Oui.
Mr. Jackson.
No.
Mr. Brock.
No.
Mr. Gill.
No.
Mr. Lawton.
No.
Monsieur Fortin.
Oui. Hey, come on, Jim. Okay. All right, Mr. Lawrence, you have the floor.
So right now we see a bloc and liberal team up. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting. I hate it so much. If only the opposition was opposing. But no, right now we got freaking bloc doing the NDP job that they had in last parliament. They just side with whoever is in power. It's sickening. I hate it so much. Really, that's what's going on. The bloc is a sellout to the liberals.
All right. Mr. Lawrence, please.
I wish to confirm Mr. Giovanni's comment that the bloc are hypocrites.
All right, we move on. We can do this all night if you want.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Holman. Yeah.
Point of order.
Ms. Lansman, yeah.
Mr. Chair, is there a list of words that you can provide the committee that you're not okay with?
If you're going to sit here and call another member of parliament a hypocrite, then yes.
I believe that
keep
he
doing
called
this all over.
he did not
did.
call another member of parliament
I've
a
ruled on it
hypocrite.
once. I've ruled on it a second time.
This is not the same thing.
We can.
Mr.
Well, what's
Chair.
your point of order then?
My point of order is whether there is a list of acceptable words in this committee. Is that where we're at now?
It's not an exhaustive.
Look at that. Lensman standing up for freedom of expression. And the chair steamrolls her as well. Voter, are you seeing that shit? I drop a really bad word, but we are an hour and a half into this. But voter, have you seen it? Who's defending your right? Not the liberal. I don't see it.
List. So, all right.
What is the list? Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Holman, you have the floor.
No, point of order. It's the same incident, but it's a different point of order.
Okay. Let's hear it.
You ruled on Mr. Giovanni's comment. We challenged your decision and moved on. The comment made by Mr. Lawrence was not impugning an individual member. He made a general comment about a party. There is no precedent at all that I'm aware of and no standing order that prohibits that. And it is certainly not the same as what you ruled on in the previous member's intervention. We are free in this House and in this committee to make a range of comments about parties broadly, which are not about
point,
people.
Mr. Lawton. That's no longer a point of order. We're getting into debate.
It is a point of order.
Mr. Holman, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, I was really enjoying the speech that Mr. Giovanni was saying. I was wondering, may I yield my time to allow the gentleman to continue with his speech?
No, we'll continue with the speakers list if you want, though. If you don't want to speak.
Get back on it, Jimmy.
Look at that chair. That chair is just disgusting.
Okay. Monsieur le Président, point d'ordre.
Mr. Speaker, point of order.
Go ahead, Mr. Fortin.
Mr. Speaker, I did not hear my colleague, Mr. Giovanni, apologize, and I didn't hear him withdraw his remarks. So I would call for him to withdraw his remarks and for him to apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Fortin, and that's exactly why I took his time away and moved to the next speaker.
Now, what I am wondering is whether that guy wants to waste some time or if he truly believes it. If he truly believes what he just asked, well, I'm not surprised the bloc is on the freaking liberal side because they apparently cannot stand critique. So I don't know.
He refused to apologize, so that's why I moved on.
Because he doesn't want the Conservatives to speak out.
He refused to apologize. Yeah. He refused to retract his comment, and which is why I moved on to the next speaker. This is okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're back to Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering if I'd be allowed to read a scriptural text that calls someone a hypocrite, or if that would be also deemed unparliamentary and illegal under the relevant legislation. I actually wonder, since I think Mr. Giovanni is coming up on the list again, that I'll ask you to re-add me to the bottom of the list and strike my position for now.
Put it this way, Mr. Giovanni is not going to speak again until he retracts those comments.
Okay. Well, Chair, then I would like to raise a question of privilege, because it is not merely a matter of order, but it is a matter of privilege that members be able to speak before committee. It is clearly not, and I know, look, you're relatively new in your position, but your authority as chair is not in right of you as an individual. It comes from the rules. It is a reflection of the office that you hold. And there have been multiple occasions today when you have not respected established rules. And, it is an established principle that members have a right to speak. And if you deprive members arbitrarily of the right to speak, if you end their time, deprive them of the floor, these are matters that are appealable directly to the Speaker of the House. I nullify all subsequent proceedings. in any event, this is a matter of privilege. Mr. Giovanni is a duly elected member of Parliament. You're welcome to disagree with him. Mr. Fortin is welcome to disagree with him, but he has a right to speak, and there are.
This is where we are heading to Canada with bills like C9. We cannot speak anymore because you know what? They will jail you for that.
Look, there are plenty of instances where members, I can think of where Mr. Erskine Smith dropped a few F-bombs at a committee in the last Parliament, and he was encouraged to be more appropriate in his language, but he was not deprived of his rights as a member of Parliament. You cannot simply decide to deprive someone of their right to speak because you don't like what they said. That is a violation of their privileges. So I would encourage you to consider whether this is a matter touching on privilege, and if you find that it is, I will be prepared to move the appropriate motion.
Well, Mr. Janis, let's do it this way. I've been in this position of chair at this committee for a week now. I've served as the committee chair for over 6 years. I notice you've never sat in a position as a committee chair. There's a reason for that, I suspect. Nonetheless.
Well, the reason is simple. You Liberals have been in power for 10 years. It's rare you will have the opposition members being the chair. It's very rare. When it happens, it's because they run out of Liberals to be chair. You know why? It's because the chair cannot vote. So that's not a functional democracy if you force the opposition to be chair. But I can bet, I can predict Garnis, if we form government in the next election, will be, if he's elected, chair. Because we will form government as the Conservative. But hey, keep praising yourself, James Melanie. All I've seen from that guy right now as a chair is the worst chair I've seen. I've seen so many different chairs, and a lot of them are fair. A lot of them are really good. They are respectful. That guy isn't. That guy doesn't deserve the title of honorable. He's not.
I think that in the circumstances, suggesting that I've been denied anybody an opportunity to speak is verging on laughable, considering we've been here for 7 hours listening to people speak over and over again. This might be your 10th or 11th intervention. I've lost track. So it's an accusation with no merit.
It has merit.
I think what is the best course of action right now. Our resources end in a few moments. I'm going to suspend this meeting for the day.
Chair, I've raised the question of privilege. You got a rule on the question of privilege.
Meeting suspended.
So there's music. We won't play it. But yeah, that was C9 for you. So I guess we will move on to the next segment. Question period. And this is very interesting because this question period, we will cover a lot of it. That was Wednesday, December 10th. And the reason why we will cover most of it, it's because the opposition, they did very interesting thing. They said very interesting thing. I think this was one of the best question period we had this session. As simple as that. A great question period. So that's why we will cover the entire thing. And I did a montage of what I consider the best, and stick with me. That's a lot. That question period lasted for an hour. But I feel like a good 40 minutes is relevant. Simply because the house was on fire. So this is after the MOU failed because the government didn't believe in his own MOU. So let's get into it. I will screen share. I will screen share.
Oral questions, questions orales.
Mr. Speaker, who suggested to the Liberals that they should open up our borders to out-of-control immigration that increased the cost of housing, took away jobs for Canadians, and put so much pressure on the healthcare system while causing the decline of French? Well, it was Mark Wiseman, ultra-liberal, the head of Mouvement Siècle, who suggested that the population of Canada should be tripled. Why is it, Mr. Speaker, that every time someone brings into place politics that are against our interests, the governments appoint them?
I will pause here simply to say there's no Carney, and that's a Wednesday. What is Carney doing? Jet flying around, making backroom deal to get someone else crossing the floor, to cheat his way into an undemocratic majority that wasn't voted for? Probably. But anyway, we get the House leader lying and gaslighting, and I will also say this. Pierre Poilievre spoke in French to defend French because he knows a lot of voters are in Quebec. And maybe the Conservative, if they fight to conserve French, that could be a great thing to platform, because obviously the Liberals and their immigration policies, they will never stand up for French. As much as they will pretend they will say they will, they will virtue signal they will, but their action will do something else. So the Conservative idea could be, let's defend French by limiting immigration, which is amazing.
First off, because it's tangentially connected, we want to wish the best to our ambassador, Kristen Hellman. Mr. Speaker,
it's unfortunate because that question period was amazing, but we got one of the worst translator. And I think the translator job is amazing. It looks and sounds very hard to do. So you got my respect, but she struggles because it says so much and she doesn't seem to translate everything. I don't know.
He has been of incredible service to our country, and she continues to guide us well and offer good counsel. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition is mentioning a policy that has never been and will never be the government's policy.
The leader of the opposition.
That's a lie. You know why it's a lie? Look at the immigration right now. Well, hey, a liberal lying. What's new?
But the person who suggested this very radical policy, liberal policy, is Mark Wiseman. He said the population of Canada should be tripled to 100 million. And I quote, even if it causes Quebec to howl. This is someone who has shown contempt for Quebec.
That's true. I agree with that.
And will not negotiate, cannot negotiate for Quebec. He suggested policies that would increase the cost of living, took away jobs, and increases the cost of our healthcare system. Why would he want to appoint this person as an ambassador? The Honourable Minister, you'll allow me, Mr. Speaker, to also commend and thank Madam Hillman for her service to Canada. I've had the opportunity to work closely with Kirsten over the last few months. I truly appreciate her friendship and her work for Canada. I understand the leader of the opposition is trying to extrapolate a number of faulty elements. Certain aspects
That's exactly
that
what the
he's
Liberal
mentioned
is
have
doing
never
right now.
been and will never be the government's policy. I understand he's trying to get a clip on tonight's news, but this won't be the one.
Opposition.
Canadians have wanted to know who came up with the idea of radical open doors, liberal immigration that overwhelmed our healthcare, housing, and job market. Well, it turns out it was Mark Wiseman, the Prime Minister's corporate crony, longtime Liberal elite, and head of the Century Initiative, whose stated mission is to triple the population of Canada to 100 million people, a policy that is designed to profit multinational corporations by driving wages down and housing costs up. Why is it every time somebody comes along with an idea that harms Canadians and drives up their cost of living, the Prime Minister gives them a promotion?
Because Prime Minister like his friend.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I wish to reiterate my thanks to our outgoing ambassador to the United States of America, Kirsten Hillman, who has furnished incredible, loyal, and very insightful services to the people and to the government of Canada. Mr. Speaker, I think our country owes her a debt of gratitude. And once again, the policy that the member across refers to has never been and will never be the policy of the government of Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, every time a Liberal insider does damage to Canadians, drives up their cost of living, they get a reward. It's not just with Mr. Wiseman, it's the Prime Minister himself. His policies are driving up grocery prices for the year to come. And what did he do as punishment for himself? Gave himself an $800,000 privately chartered flight to Egypt, where there were meetings happening in which he had absolutely no role other than a photo op. Why is it that Canadians need to line up at food banks so that he can go jetting around the world for photo ops?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I know in the spirit of the holiday season, the Leader of the Opposition is not surely not suggesting that the Prime Minister not attend as auspicious an event as the ceremony with respect to peace in the Middle East, in Gaza, and joining multitudes of other world leaders at that occasion.
Peace in the Middle East. I'm sorry, it's so hypocrite. He doesn't stand up for that. I'm sorry, folk, if you believe he'll stand up for peace. I'm sorry because he doesn't. The actions say otherwise. You know what? We got Trump trying to solve what's going on in the freaking Middle East. And guess what? Guess what? Carney wants to recognize a Palestinian state or whatever he was trying to recognize just to keep the heat up. Trump has been trying to solve the Ukraine war. Well, Carney, let's throw up some money. Like, we have people in tents, but we have, like, Carney that use our money instead of housing these people in tents, uses that money to send it to his friend Zelensky in Ukraine. It's so disgusting. Really, it's frustrating. I hate to be Canadian right now. It's probably one of the worst places to live in. I'm here because my family is here. I'm here because my life is here. But if you consider coming in Canada, don't. So I will refresh that.
I know in the spirit of the holiday season, the Leader of the Opposition is not surely not suggesting that the Prime Minister not attend as auspicious an event as the ceremony with respect to peace in the Middle East, in Gaza.
Well, again, that's very hypocrite to speak about peace in the Middle East while Carney throws more money to fuel wars. Don't speak about peace if you fuel wars.
The Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was conspicuously irrelevant at that meeting where he had played no role whatsoever in the agreement, and yet he charged Canadians $800,000 for a privately chartered jet. Apparently, his own prime ministerial jet was not good enough for him. He does this while he imposes an industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, on fertilizer, on food processors that has driven 2.2 million Canadians to a food bank. Why is the Prime Minister being the Grinch of the grocery store, charging taxpayers for flights when Canadians can't eat?
So this is a very fun line of
the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. I can't hear. Also, I just would like to mention to the Honourable Member for Oakville West that I could hear her all the way here. So if we could keep it a little lower. We will now go to the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's work on the world stage with his counterparts to bring an end to the conflict in the Middle East is extremely important.
Why by
He is
stopping
continuing to be
funding
engaged on the
Ukraine?
peace plan in the Middle East. The plan, in fact, reflects Canada's long-standing positions that Hamas should have no role in the governance of Palestine, and the ceasefire provides an opportunity for the Prime Minister and other world leaders to continue to work on humanitarian aid for the benefit of all.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's refusal, even though he's in Ottawa, to answer my questions directly is not keeping with the Christmas spirit. And he's going to, this is at a time when he's driven up the cost of living so much that 2.2 million Canadians are lined up at food banks, that food prices are going to drive an extra $1,000 onto the grocery bills of Canadians next year after he imposed higher taxes on farm equipment, fertilizer, food packaging, and more. Will the Prime Minister, instead of being the Grinch of the grocery store, reverse these taxes so that Canadians can have an affordable, delicious Christmas?
Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, while the member opposite talks about imaginary taxes, Canadians know exactly what's going on, and it's related to climate change, Mr. Speaker. Our thoughts are with the cattle farmers in the Western provinces this year, Mr. Speaker, who have faced unimaginable loss of crop and loss of cattle as a result of drought, Mr. Speaker. That's driving up the price of beef, something that we can't actually control right now. But you know what we can, Mr. Speaker? We can make sure that Canadians have extra money in their pocket. That's what Canadians are counting on. That will be for them in these tough times.
You will be there to tax them more, so they cannot be competitive, and they flee like in other countries where they will be competitive.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is considering appointing Mark Meisman as Ambassador to Washington. He is a co-founder of the Century Initiative, a policy that aims to increase the population to 100 million people. It's beyond Quebec's ability capacity to cope. I quote, 100 million Canadians by 2100 should be the federal government's policy, even if it makes Quebec howl. He used the term howl in English, which literally means the cry of the dog. Does the Prime Minister really think he can represent Quebecers abroad?
Oh,
leader,
Quebecers are just
on numerous
Canadian,
occasions
folks.
in this House, Mr.
That's
Speaker.
the liberal way.
That policy that my colleague is referring to
They like
was
Quebec's
never a
vote, though.
government of Canada policy and never will be. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Well, Mr. Speaker, you know, wise men say that only fools rush in. The Prime Minister already made an appointment last week that turned the entire province of Quebec against him. Let's hope that he won't make the same mistake twice. When Mark Meisman talks about imposing immigration policies on Quebecers, even if it makes them howls, he demonstrates not only his contempt for Quebec, but also his contempt for democracy. There are 44 Quebecers among the Liberals. Is there at least one who will stand up and tell his leader to appoint someone else? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The policy she is referring to for the 6th time in the House today, I want to reiterate, is not a Government of Canada policy, never will
It
be.
is.
But if she
Stop
does want to discuss
lying.
culture, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased with our Minister of Culture and our investment.
Every
4.1 million
action
on
the liberals are doing when it comes
official
to
languages.
immigration
We asked the
proves
Québécois
they are
for something for the
believing in
preparation
the
of our
Century
budget. They didn't come up with
Initiative.
anything for the cultural sector. Thank you very much. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal drift towards authoritarianism continues after Bill C-5, which gives the federal government the power to bypass all legislation for its major projects, such as pipelines. Now we have Bill C-15. The Liberals are enshrining in law the right for all their ministers to break any law under the pretext of innovation. That's not all. Bill S-4, introduced by Liberal senators, also means laws can be circumvented. If the Liberals can decide everything without respecting the law or consulting anyone, can we still call this a democracy?
And
The Honourable Government
C9
Leader.
that the bloc seems to support.
Certainly, we can call it a democracy, Mr. Speaker. We are discussing these matters publicly, so I think that is the definition of a democratic debate. With respect to Bill C-15, it contains
It
tools that are
wasn't
very
in your
important to
platform
advance
when
our
you wanted
economy,
to be
advance
elected.
innovation in Canada, and to make sure that we can achieve great things together for Quebec to achieve its ambitions, for Canada to achieve its economic ambitions and other ambitions as well, Mr. Speaker. We are pleased to continue to debate these matters with the member and the House as a whole.
Capel. The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Voting against the Prime Minister's own MOU does not a pipeline build, Mr. Speaker. Getting that MOU through his own caucus should have been the easy part of the process. This self-declared master negotiator couldn't even do that. Instead, his MOU piles on new conditions and red tape, ties approvals to other projects, hikes the industrial carbon tax, and hands unconstitutional vetoes to other levels of government. It's clear he couldn't even get it through his own caucus. If the Prime Minister couldn't do that, why should Canadians believe he can get a pipeline through all his new hoops and hurdles?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Look, I was in Rachel Notley's new Democrat government when, in partnership with the federal Liberals, we got the first pipeline to Tidewater built in generations. A pipeline that helps pay for schools, hospitals, environmental investments, and supports good union jobs. Now, as a Vancouver Island MP, I support our Prime Minister's vision to build Canada strong with Indigenous peoples, the provinces, and the environment. The Conservatives
no
want to ram
fuel
things
or
through. Never mind
oil.
Indigenous peoples, never mind the environment. Our thoughtful approach ensures that no Canadian is left behind.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Yesterday, we found out that the Prime Minister spent almost $800,000 on a one-day taxpayer escape to Egypt to take a photo and not sign an agreement. Struggling Canadians are lining up at food banks, skipping meals while the Prime Minister takes their money and skips town. We know that this is second nature for the Prime Minister to live large on other people's dime, but can he at least stand up today and explain to hungry Canadians why he treats their tax dollars like his personal travel fund?
The Honourable Government Health Leader.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I know the Honourable Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party is not suggesting that the Prime Minister of Canada should not have joined with dozens of his international counterparts for as auspicious an event as the commemoration of a ceasefire in the Middle East, an issue upon which I might add she has had a lot to say over the last little while. The Prime Minister of Canada represents Canadians proudly, and Canadians are proud when our Prime Minister attends these events and does incredible business with his counterparts from all around the world.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
I will tell that member that that agreement was signed despite the Prime Minister, not because of him. And I'd like to remind the Prime Minister also that in the Toronto food banks got over 4 million visits last year, and they're going to get even more when the price of groceries rises $1,000 per family next year. Will the government kill the industrial carbon tax, the packaging tax, the new fuel tax, so Canadians can afford food, or will he hop on another plane and avoid answering questions in this place altogether?
He will avoid questions. That's funny. What do
The
you
opposition wants to
expect
talk
from him?
about nonsense taxes that don't exist on food. Instead of supporting the very things that Canadians have told us time and again they want. They want a Canada Child benefit that's indexed to inflation. They want seniors benefits that are indexed to inflation. They want to make sure, in fact, I think almost all mothers want to make sure that children get healthy food in schools, but not these conservatives, Mr. Speaker. They want to stand in the way of the
But they
very
want
things that
the
Canadians
mothers
don't
to
have at this
actually
time.
pay for it.
Member
not
for
the
Haldeman
state.
Norfolk.
The Prime Minister
makes
promised
sense.
to bring down the price of groceries. A family where I live in Haldeman, Norfolk, reached out to me in desperation. Despite a decent income, they said that they can barely afford groceries for their family and their household. When the Liberals took office in 2015, the average weekly grocery bill was $159. A decade later, it has more than doubled to over $338. Wow. So when will this Prime Minister cut the hidden food taxes so that Canadians can afford to feed their families?
Never, because they
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
I got it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, members opposite are focused on imaginary taxes.
More lies.
On this side of the House, we are continuing to invest in Canadians and the supports that they need, including
They should
Canada
add
Child benefit,
in-
which is
on
backed to
this side
inflation,
of
and we're
the
up to
House, they
$8,000
lie.
per child under 6 years old in this country. So on this side of the House, we will continue to invest in Canadians and the supports that they need, and we would encourage the members opposite to show a little more support for those programs as well. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Haldeman Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, there's nothing imaginary about the hunger pains that many Canadians are feeling. Many families are also financially squeezed with a mortgage payment and utility bills, which are rising faster than they can keep up with. These pressures have worsened under the Liberals with the rise in the industrial carbon tax, the packaging tax, and the new fuel tax. All of these hidden taxes are driving up the cost of food. When will the Liberals stop their inflationary spending and cut these hidden food taxes so that Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is
She's
clear
probably
that
from
we don't want any
Quebec.
families to have a
That's
hard
why
time
she's
feeding
going on
themselves,
in
and that's
French.
why, in fact, we invest in programs and supports for families precisely so that they can put food on the table and also have school food through the school food program.
More tax.
At the same time, we are creating jobs. This is what Canadians really need, and this is something we're
No, you
noticing
don't
over the
create
last 3 months. There's been an
jobs, you
increase
just
in the number of
waste
jobs.
Member for Brandon Souris.
I don't think so. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent at Gowenhock. Mr. Speaker, in Canadian diplomacy, there is no position more important than that of Canadian ambassador to the United States. That person who holds that position must be very tightly connected with the Prime Minister. Now we hear Mr. Mike Wiseman might be appointed by the Prime Minister. This individual supports the initiative of the century, namely a population of 100 million by 2100. And he said, he did even worse. He said, even if it makes Quebec howl. Mr. Speaker, why would the government appoint someone who insults Quebecers? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, with all the appreciation I have for my colleague across the way, the simple fact that he is repeating the very same question his leader asked, just to have a clip on tonight's news, perhaps at 6 p.m. show, or maybe with Madame Galipo's show, he knows full well, Mr. Speaker, that public policy, those that he's referring to have never been the liberal government public policies. They will never be. I understand he's trying to make something out of this, but it won't work. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent at Gowenhock. What isn't working is that the architect of this very initiative will be appointed ambassador to the U.S. Even worse, the minister knows full well that this very Mr. Wiseman is an opponent of supply management. So we're not inventing anything by saying that. That's the truth. Imagine the prime
supply management like me.
What will the minister say to explain the appointment of a man who insults Quebecers and then is against supply management? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, our colleague from Quebec is giving me here an opportunity to inform him of the fact that as recently as last night, I was at an activity held by the Chambers of Commerce of Quebec. I had an opportunity myself to speak with the Vice president of the dairy producers of Quebec, and of course we discussed supply management. I was able to reassure my friend in Montreal last night that the government will always defend supply management. We will not be negotiating supply management with the Americans. The Prime Minister was quite clear, and I'm pleased to repeat this here in the House again before you.
The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Last night at the Justice Committee, Conservatives moved to immediately prioritize Bill C-14 and scrap dangerous Liberal bail laws. And what did the Liberals do? Shamefully, they blocked us. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Wow. And now we just learned that they canceled today's 8-hour meeting. What? Instead of stopping criminals, these Liberals are more concerned with prosecuting religious expression. Why don't the Liberals just get out of the way and let Conservatives finally fix the broken bail system? Get out of the way.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, methinks the member doth protest too much. We have watched he and his colleagues filibuster the work of the Justice Committee for many weeks on end. Mr. Speaker, he says that
They do that because it's all about C9, and C9 is harmful. But hey, see, Fraser doesn't care about bail. He only cares about your tweets.
not responsible for it, but it's actually all on video. For hours, they go on and on discussing their preference for puppies or kittens when they, in fact, could be debating laws that are designed to keep Canadians safe. It's essential that we move forward with an aggressive campaign to improve public safety that we campaigned on to fight hate in this country, to improve bail systems in this country, and to ensure every community is safe.
By censoring people.
Six Nations.
The member may go ahead. The Liberals had multiple opportunities to crack down on violent repeat offenders. Instead, they chose religious censorship over public safety. Liberal members from Burnaby Central, Dorval, Lachine, LaSalle, Mount Royal, and even the Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Justice, must answer to Canadians for why they keep obstructing the study of Bill C-14. They were given the chance to protect Canadians. They chose not to. How many more murders, sex assaults, and violent extortions are enough for this tired Liberal government to finally protect Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, the speed with which this member will cite these kind of tragic crimes as a political prop is simply beneath this.
I don't know what to say to that. I mean, obviously, it's quite clear that I'll allow the minister to start from the top.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are now even finding a way to filibuster question period. In all honesty, Mr. Speaker, the readiness with which the Conservatives come to this conversation where they will cite heinous crimes to make a political point, but then stall the proceedings to actually advance the laws that police chiefs are asking for, that victims are asking for, that law enforcement from their own communities
Whoa. That's gaslight. C9. Okay, C9. I will admit, there's a portion of people that are against freedom of expression, freedom of speech, because they believe words can hurt, like physically. So I will admit there are some people that want censorship. But I think the majority of people actually care about freedom of expression. And if you don't, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't be in Canada because we have a democracy, or we used to have until Carney came on and decided to pay off some people to join his team. But that's also a testament of conservatives. They don't really choose well their MPs. That's a broader discussion, but we pretend we are a democracy. Therefore, we should have freedom of speech. It's not China. Well, not yet, at least.
There's a problem when yours truly can't hear because there's too much noise, and then I have to stop it because I need to hear what people are saying. So if the Honourable Minister would like to conclude his comments.
Mr. Speaker, the excuse they are using now to prevent addressing bail and sentencing is that they won't support measures that are designed to combat hate crimes in this country. We can fight hate. We can keep communities safe. The Conservatives should get out of the way.
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, Conservatives on the Justice Committee tried 3 times to let the committee prioritize the study of much-needed bail reforms on which it would be possible for us to have consensus. But what was so pressing the Liberals didn't want to study their own bail bill. They launched a full-scale assault on religious freedom in this country that risks prosecution of those who express religious beliefs. And now the minister says after passing the amendment, he'll start his consultations. This is the minister that said he would rather spend time with his family. Could he do that instead of censoring Canadians?
Oh, that's a shot fired, because you see, when the Liberals were falling apart, Fraser resigned. But then he decided to come back because Carney was pulling good numbers. That's the only reason why Fraser is back. And that's disgusting. You shouldn't be in Parliament if you're there for your own benefit and not for Canadian.
Well, Mr. Speaker.
not even Fraser that stand up to defend himself. It's disgusting. It's sickening. People elect that guy.
Well, Mr. Speaker, because that member wrote the biography of the member for Battle River Crowfoot, he knows very well the tricks of the trade when it comes to obstructing legislation. But here's the problem that Conservatives have. We have systematically tabled legislation in this House to battle child pornography, extortion, intimate partner violence, to do bail reform. We have put border measures, we have put immigration crackdowns all in front of this House. What do the Conservatives do? Filibuster, jam, just like the book says.
The honourable member for the honourable.
Nearly 1 in 4 British Columbians are food insecure, and food bank usage is soaring. The Prime Minister told Canadians to judge him by grocery prices. Well, the verdict is in. Under this Liberal government, food banks are not just for emergencies anymore. They are now an entrenched lifeline of support. When will these Liberals stop their inflationary spending and cut the hidden taxes on food so Canadians can afford to eat?
The honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, opposition MPs are too comfortable with fiction and fantasies. British Columbians demand facts and the respect that they can tell the difference.
They bring facts, but Liberals, they can't stand it.
Tax cut to put savings in the pockets of 22 million Canadians.
$400
We made the National
bucks,
School Food Program
sure.
permanent to save families up to $800 a year, and we're investing in 175,000 youth and student employment opportunities. British Columbians deserve the facts, Mr. Speaker, and the fact is we're delivering for Canadians.
No, you don't.
Member for Mission Matchley Abbotsford.
Speaker, that member should be ashamed, outlining fiction and fantasy in respect to the challenges of British Columbians to feed their families. The 2026 food price report says grocery prices will keep climbing $1,000 more next year, forcing families to compromise on healthy food and to rely more on food banks. Farmers in my riding, the breadbasket of British Columbia, tell me they're drowning in costs. Fertilizer, fuel, and transportation have all skyrocketed. Nationally, producers are taking on more debt than any time since 1981. Instead of raising taxes to grow, ship, and sell our food, when will this government face reality and lower food prices?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, as Christmas approaches, I'm reminded that there are 143 Conservatives over there who might as well be named Scrooge. British Columbians on my riding of Squamble Saanich Soup know that Scrooge from Battle River Crowfoot doesn't want to feed hungry children in schools. That Scrooge from Thornhill doesn't want money going to seniors through old age security. That Scrooge from Haldimand Norfolk doesn't want parents to get a check for childcare benefits. I sure hope that the Conservatives get a visit from the ghosts of Christmas present, past, and future so that they embrace the Canadian spirit of compassion.
They do.
The
It's not
honourable member for Hamilton East,
to
Stony Creek.
overtax people to
Well,
pretend
Canadians
to
can't
give
afford to
them
put food
back
on the
some.
table. This Liberal Prime Minister spent nearly 800,000 taxpayer dollars chartering a flight to Egypt. While he was jet setting, the reality here at home is that grocery prices have skyrocketed. And the food price report 2020 shows, quote, it's expected to get even worse. The report confirms that in 2026, Canadians will pay an extra $1,000 per year on groceries. When will these Liberals stop their reckless spending so Canadians can afford to feed themselves?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, our government is focused on creating opportunities. And that meant tell that member jobs are up in this country, Mr. Speaker. Wages are up, growth is up, but we're not
That's
stopping there,
only
Mr.
because
Speaker.
it's the
We're creating
holidays
opportunities for
and we
Hamilton.
got more
We are
part-time
building big,
stuff
Mr. Speaker, with the
coming in.
largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history, which that member voted against. We're going to be building major projects of national interest, community centers, hospitals, healthcare, Mr. Speaker. When are the Conservatives going to get on board, Mr. Speaker? We're doing the hard work on this side. They aren't.
The honourable member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind the member from Hamilton over there that instead of chirping us and heckling us, he should go visit a food bank in Hamilton. The Stony Creek Food Bank is serving 60 people per day. That's up 400% in the last 2 years. Last week, youth visits were up double compared to this time last year. It's no wonder food is so expensive. Industrial carbon tax, packaging tax, and the new fuel tax all raise food prices. Again, I will ask, will the Liberals cut their hidden taxes on food so that
The Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, record in this House speaks volumes, Mr. Speaker. That party has voted against every affordability measure this side of the House has brought forward. They voted against dental care, which is helping Canadians get to the dentist. Mr. Speaker, the Canada Child Benefit, which gives checks to parents to help their kids with food and clothing. Mr. Speaker, Build Canada Homes, which is going to reduce the price of housing in this country, Mr. Speaker. Automatic tax filing. That party's voted against every measure to help Canadians. They come in here, they say they support affordability, but they don't.
Honourable member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Mr. Speaker, Heather from Airdrie is a senior who has worked in Canada since she was 13 years old. And she and her husband paid their dues, but now after a lifetime of contributing, they are, and I quote, next to having to use the food bank just to get by. It's unacceptable that after 10 long years of this Liberal government, seniors who built this country can't even afford groceries.
Yep.
When will this Prime Minister axe his inflationary spending, his industrial carbon tax, his fuel tax, and his food packaging tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
That's right. The Honourable
The Liberals, they like it because people elect them again,
The industrial
expecting
carbon tax has
ends out.
next to zero impact on the cost of food. School food programs, on the other hand,
That's
lower food
lie.
costs for many families.
Gaslight.
But the Conservatives
Cannot
voted against
stand her.
it, just like they voted against childcare, dental care, and affordable housing. Day after day, we hear the Conservatives talk about making life more affordable for Canadians. So why do they keep voting against the things that would do exactly that?
Because you tax people for that.
Member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Well, there's a lot of people struggling in this country who would beg to differ. I'll talk to you about Justin, middle-class dad from Airdrie, who says the cost of living crisis is eroding middle-class stability, with families being squeezed by soaring housing, grocery, utility, and fuel prices. And that's all because the Liberal industrial carbon tax, the fuel tax, the food packaging tax have increased the cost to grow, to ship, and to sell everything that Canadians need. So why won't this Prime Minister finally axe his inflationary spending and end his punishing taxes so that Canadians can afford a decent life once again?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Albertans are steady people, sensible people, and they know imaginary taxes are imaginary. They know there's no packaging tax, and they know that wages are growing in this country, and while there is much work to do, we are managing a very difficult storm very well, and we welcome the members' office to help us with that storm instead of whatever this has been today, because this has been wild. But Mr. Speaker, there is much work to do in this country, and we want them to help.
From all over the country. The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamik, Temiscouata. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that he could be judged by the cost of groceries. Well, now Canadians are judging him. Groceries are twice as expensive as they were 10 years ago, and the most recent food price report said that the price will go up another $1,000 next year for a family of 4. Today, families told me that they have to choose between milk and fruit. Some are skipping meals so that they can make it to the end of the week. In a country like Canada, that makes no sense. Will the Liberals get rid of their inflationary spending and their hidden food taxes so that Canadians can finally afford to eat? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. These are crocodile tears coming from the Conservatives. They say that Canadians are having trouble making ends meet, yet they are voting against Canadians' interests. We index the Canada Child Benefit to inflation. The Conservatives don't like that, and they voted against it. We put in place a dental care program for our young people and for seniors who are struggling. Conservatives voted against that. They're against that program. Why? Because it helps Canadians. Let's be honest. Conservatives do not have the interests of Canadians at heart.
Member for Health. For months, Conservatives fought to get the Stellantis contracts released despite the gag order from the Liberals, and now we know why they wanted to hide it. The so-called jobs guarantee that the Minister was bragging about in question period only a few weeks ago was for 4,400 full-time employees at Stellantis. Sounds okay, right? Except Stellantis had 8,000 employees at the time the contract was signed. That would allow them to lay off 3,500 workers and still get the money. Is that why they fired 3,000 auto workers in Brampton, took the cash, and sent the jobs to Donald Trump?
Donald Trump is Carney friend.
We are with our workers in the auto sector that are victims of the unjustified and unjustifiable American tariffs, and will continue to fight for their jobs. When it comes to Stellantis, we had a deal, they broke it, we'll go after the money.
She didn't read it.
You want to know what's unjustifiable? What's unjustifiable is giving a multinational company $15 billion and getting a job guarantee in the contract that allows the company to fire almost 50% of its workers. Let that sink in. They gave them $15 billion. They were allowed to fire 3,500 workers in Canada and still be in compliance with the contract. My question is this. This is gross negligence. It is incompetence beyond incompetence. How the hell has someone not been fired?
These are liberals. You can burn
We
the
have pretty
building,
much
and
unlimited
that's
freedom of
fine.
expression in this House,
You're
but there are some words that provoke a reaction, even if they're not technically unparliamentary on the list.
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
What's gross negligence? It's when these Conservatives under Harper decided to do a deal to bail out GM and Chrysler.
10 years ago, folks, and 10 years ago, we didn't add all of the law and regulation.
We have no lessons to take from them. We were the first government to bring jobs back to the auto sector. 3,000 right
That's
now.
a lie.
Woods are at the next door facility, and we'll
Yes,
make sure that
right.
we get our money back from Stellantis.
Jobs are
Member for Carleton.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont La Petite Patrie. Soon, families will be getting together for Christmas dinner. And what will be the discussion around the table? This disappointment in this Liberal government. Not only have they done nothing to bring down grocery or housing costs, but everyone knows that they have given up the fight against climate change. To quote the former Environment Minister, it will now be impossible for Canada to meet its climate targets. This government is driving us off a cliff. They have let down future generations. Our young people will inherit an unpredictable climate and a burning planet. Will the Liberals apologize to our children? The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change, Mr. Speaker, I have said it once, I will say it again. Our government is committed to continue the fight against climate change. What is more, if you look at what we're hearing from the Conservatives, you will understand what it means to have one party in the House that does not understand what it means to fight against climate change. We are doing our jobs. We will continue to put in the work, and I hope that my colleague will support our climate plan.
The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George has a point of order.
There have been discussions among the different parties. Mr. Speaker, I believe if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent.
The Honourable Member for St. Thomas, Elgin, London South, is it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As members of the House are aware, we open our days with prayer each day, and I'm hoping you can rule on whether members will be protected by parliamentary privilege from prosecutions to C9 pass.
I can't even.
I like that question. That's amazing.
So maybe if the member could repeat what he said, I couldn't hear it, unfortunately. So to avoid having the member repeat it a third time, maybe we could have a little more silence across the room. The honourable member for St. Thomas, Elgin, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As members are aware, we open our days in prayer each day, which is a testament to the spiritual roots of this country. I'm just wondering if you can rule on whether our parliamentary privilege will protect us from prosecution if Bill C-9 becomes law.
The honourable government house leader.
On the same point of order, Mr. Speaker, it is absolutely absurd and outrageous to suggest that this Parliament would act to constrain the rights and the privileges of Canadians to prayer, to choose their faith, to practice their religion in any way possible, Mr. Speaker.
This rights people.
I don't see it. I don't see it being a problem. I don't see it being a problem.
Wow, I'm shocked. I like that ending. That was the perfect ending for that question period. So I guess we will move on to the last question period, because this week, as I said earlier in the stream, this week is the last week Parliament sits for 2025. They will be back at some point in February, I believe. Hopefully, we will still have Yapariev in charge. But let's get into the last question period, and then we will react to two other last things, because there's a lot of last. Let's get into it. Boom, boom, boom. I will screen share. Let's screen share. Let's screen share. There we go. There we go.
Questions. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas. It's the holiday season. It's a time of hope. And obviously, the Conservative Party is the party of hope. And so we are sharing that hope with everyone today. But for too many people, life has become too expensive. There are single mothers and seniors who can't buy food, and the Prime Minister is threatening Canadians with a new increase in the gas tax, which will increase the cost of food. Will the Prime Minister, before Christmas, announce that he's going to cancel these hidden taxes on groceries so that Canadians can have hope to eat well? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Party, listen, there's nobody who calls that the party of hope. But in this holiday season,
at least they don't speak about sacrifice. Well, Carney does, but he doesn't want to give up on his conflict of interest.
Wish even to the Grinchy leader of the opposition a very Merry Christmas, and the same to the entire Conservative caucus. I hope that they'll stop imagining taxes that don't exist, taxes that have never existed and never will exist for Canadians. We're going to offer support to all Canadians. Merry Christmas, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I had hoped that the Prime Minister was going to be here for once to defend. Even if it's Christmas, we can't allow ourselves to go against the rules. I'll have to take a question away from the Leader of the Opposition, and I'm sorry to do that, particularly at this time of the year. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. I just was hoping that for once he would defend the cost of living, which is going up because of the taxes that they're imposing on groceries. But it's not just that. There's also crime. The Liberals are blocking their own bail law. The Conservatives have moved motions 17 times in the last 2 days to get that bail law to be able to move forward. And the Liberals have caused these problems by freeing criminals with Bill C-75 before Christmas. Will they allow us to move forward their own law to reprove the damage they've done? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, just because it's the holiday season and everyone is feeling generous, well, Mr. Speaker, just because of that, you can't twist the facts. The Conservatives spent September, October, November, and December blocking the most ambitious crime-fighting agenda in the history of Canada, Mr. Speaker. And now, at the last minute, on the very last day, all of a sudden, they want to change everything, rearrange everything. We have bills for bail. We have bills to fight hate. We have bills to fight violence and extortion, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives need to get out of the way.
Opposition. Mr. Speaker, let me wish everyone a Merry Christmas, the time of hope. And of course, Conservatives are the party of hope. And we share that hope right across the Commons. As I do with the Prime Minister, inviting him to stand up. But unfortunately for many Canadians, it's the time of liberal inflation. As they go down the grocery aisles, they see the costs of food rising before their eyes. As the Prime Minister increases hidden taxes on the cost of making and selling food. A 7 cents a litre gas tax he plans for the new year. Will he rise today and give Canadians some hope by announcing he's reversing that latest Liberal tax hike?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, rather than focusing on imaginary taxes like the opposition, we say focus on helping Canadian families. And
instead, they lie, like the Liberal.
Early this month, House as they get ready for a happy holiday and Merry Christmas. Mr. Speaker, we're focused on supporting Canadians and Canadian families, something that I would hope a party that talks about hope would want to do.
So let's move to the ending because I think there's a NDP question. Yes, there is. And there are actually 2 NDP questions.
Publicly served crack pipes. And he knows it full well because he keeps ragging on about it at committee.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
The Cowichan Nation Aboriginal title case is an important decision affirming First Nations rights. Let's be clear, this decision is not about taking land from private owners. The federal government must focus its efforts on reconciliation and honor of the Crown. Will the minister convene negotiations with all affected parties to ensure an orderly transition toward respecting the ancestral, spiritual, cultural rights of the Cowichan Nation?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we will continue to work collaboratively with all parties to uphold the principles of reconciliation.
That's a freaking lie. They struggle
with all
in
parties
one
involved.
vote
That involves
from the
British Columbia, the City of
opposition
Richmond, must
for
be an
their
Indian man,
budget.
Lawson First Nation,
So they
as well
don't
as the
work
Cowichan.
with other
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
parties.
The Honourable
That's actually wrong.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are promising massive profits to resource extraction companies by fast-tracking projects on Indigenous lands while investing nothing in community safety. Violence against Indigenous women and girls spikes around man camps, including sexual assault, trafficking, and child sexual exploitation, a reality that was confirmed in the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Yet this year's budget offers zero. Do our lives matter, Mr. Speaker, or is this government going to turn their back on us yet again?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
The crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls is unacceptable, and our government is taking concrete action. Through the National Action Plan and the federal pathway, we are funding new shelters and safe spaces, supporting Indigenous-led safety programs, improving policing standards, and advancing culturally grounded services for families and survivors. We know progress must be faster. We will continue working directly with Indigenous partners to implement the calls for justice and deliver real, measurable change. This is our...
So that was the end of question period fall 2025. So we have 2 other video going on, and I just realized something else is playing in the background. I lost focus, but this is what's going on. And now to get back to the floor crossing and the Liberal cheating their way to a undemocratic majority, I think it's very disgusting. That's the first thing to mention. The second thing, we were supposed to have an election this spring because they had a minority government. If they secure a majority, we are done. Canada is cooked, and it will be very bad. They will maybe finally get C9 into law, which is really, really disgusting. But this is the fear I got. I see totalitarian regime in the rise here in Canada, and I don't like it. Anyway, let's get into that Liberal cheating or floor crossing again. Let's get into it. I clipped someone else because I think he has a great channel and he makes very valid points, and I will react to some of the things he had to say about it. There we go. It's in the description below. The 11 podcast is something we covered several times on the channel, so let's get into it.
Upright and honest, but I never really cared, regardless of what party it was. This one, this parliament has really meant a lot to me. So I'm like realizing there is so much at stake here. Both parties are so ideologically opposed, and there's such a slim margin of difference in the House, where if it goes either way, if any party gets a majority, Canada's going to look very different regardless of who you choose.
And that's factually true. We have the Liberals that want total socialism, while the Conservative, they want fiscally responsible government that's out of the people's way, out of people's lives. The Conservative are very moderate, but they are more right-leaning, where they let the free market exist. But the Liberal, as much as they are called Liberals, they don't let a free market survive. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all of these all of these laws against pipeline. We won't have that many taxes telling you can't use carbon or some crap like that.
And that's where I'm like, this is why we're having these conversations, like you're saying, Reg. It's like, okay, this needs to be up for a by-election.
And by the way, we also have a lot of things that are protected under supply management.
We need to relook at this because this is not working. There's way too much at stake for people to be able to like peace and move to the other side. Obviously, when it's your side that's benefiting it, and especially in this scenario, it's like, yeah,
we need reforms.
Democracy. It's how it's built here. It's Westminster system, right? And obviously, we're on the side of like, oh, I don't want to be policed for my speech and all that, so I don't want to see all that trash come in. So I'm not happy about seeing this at all.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I had a couple calls with some friends and family before, in between your and our conversation and in between now, and some people who actually voted Liberal, and it's interesting, kind of like having that conversation where I was like, I'm having a hard time because I'm looking at this going, we're on a crash course collision towards authoritarian government. And like, look at us becoming the next UK. And
they don't see it. The Liberals, they don't see it. I have a cousin that believes in censorship. She is scared of Charlie Kirk. I keep telling her, we got laws. We got something against hate speech. You can go in jail for that. We just don't use it. But yet the government wants more power. It wants to silence dissent.
One of the things that they said, they're like, yeah, but I don't like Pierre. And I'm like, oh, I hate that that's like, but like, it's so real. And I wonder what this does for Pierre's leadership review.
It's not great, but we need to consider many things. The big thing is the brainwash that's going on. The second thing, very specific people will be delegate to vote for Pierre. And my hope, and finger crossed, really my hope is the smart thing for the party is to keep Pierre around. You keep him around because here's the thing. He is so much hated by the media that maybe is right. So what I mean by there is, if Pierre Poilievre was bad at his job, media wouldn't be talking that much about him. They wouldn't be that scared about him because the media are scared of him. Carney is scared of him. And the big issue, the big thing, if you decide, you know what, Pierre Poilievre fails that leadership review, what will happen? The big risk, the big issue we will have is now he will lose his title as party leader. And you know what? This is exactly what the Liberals, they want. Because if the Conservatives don't have a leader, if the NDP don't have a leader, guess what? You will get a supermajority for the Liberals. I can't see that happening. So really, I really hope the Conservative Party is clever and smart and see what I see right now. They need to keep Pierre around. The NDP is coming back. And Pierre Poilievre, despite the smear and the slander, people support his party. So maybe they don't like him, but they want his party in power. So I really hope this leadership review, he wins it, even if someone else crosses the floor. Because that'd be a big mistake to just drop Pierre like that. And I know he's not liked in Quebec because most Quebecers are the most brainwashed. I think we are the most progressive. We are really like the worst place in Canada, to be honest. I know Quebec hates Pierre. Most people, they stop at what the media tells them. That's the big issue.
If this is going to cook them, like, I mean, if they have another one, the Liberals get a majority, I think that will spell the end of his leadership.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder. My question is, like, I wonder what the backroom conversations in the Conservative caucus are right now. Like, what are they saying? Because it doesn't look good, you know. And whether Pierre's at fault, not at fault, somebody's gonna have to wear it. And when things go wrong, we know that in private and public sector, it comes down to leadership to wear something like this. So yeah, I don't know what their next step is, but I also think that we saw such a resurgence with the Conservative Party this week. I think that this is something that the Liberal Party had to have happen in order to kind of get some momentum, because they were falling apart. Yeah. They were at each other's throats. We were watching a party literally cannibalize itself, eat itself from the inside, and the Conservatives were on their game. I think that Carney's people just went, if it wasn't a threat, it was like, what can we promise this man behind the curtain to get him to cross the floor? Because we need to win right now because our party's in disarray. And I think that this is kind of going to be something that's going to give them a bit of wind at their sails. But at the same time, I'm hoping that it doesn't demoralize the Conservative Party and it actually causes them to dig deep. But there's two things there. It's like, I am curious what this means for Pierre's leadership, and I am curious what this means for the morale of the Conservative Party. Because I think I'm feeling the same way that everybody else is feeling, where it's just kind of like, it's kind of like whiplash. You're like, whoa, what just happened here? Mm-hmm. And yeah, just kind of wild, right?
Yeah, I agree. And this is the thing I really want to hit on too. And I think something, because I understand the initial sentiment of like, oh man, it's over. It's over. I know I'm seeing a lot in the chat right now. And I need you to think about one thing. You know what the spin's going to be. The spin's going to be, well, Polyev, bad leader. He can't hold it together. It's over. Conservatives are weak as ever. And but you have to remember, the conservative movement is very strong right now. The fact that this is what the Liberals have to do to try and get any wins on the board tells you everything you need to know. I think that's something that you really need to kind of take that to the bank right now. And then second as well, yes, at this point with the floor crossing here, I think that, it probably removes the chance of a spring election, or at least really significantly brings it down, because what is going to happen next, you have to keep an eye on this, Reg, and everybody else, is whose by-election is coming up in the spring? Mm-hmm. Mr. Jean Roos. Yep. So, and that is a toss-up riding right now from what...
And I will also add this. Maybe a lot of other things can happen. So they really should keep Pierre Polyev around. Again, even if there's a majority, it's a very small majority, so that means it's shaking up. It's not a massive majority, and you don't want the Liberals to get a massive majority.
They're seeing and saying. So they won by 6 points. Carney's really pushing hard on this pipeline to hopefully maybe win that riding. So that is what they're seeing. So I don't know if we'll see any more floor crossers between now and then. However, I think that's what Carney's been banking on, is if they win that, obviously if they win that riding, we got a Liberal majority. If they don't, and then we see all these Liberals who are going to be departing in the spring and summer, that puts the ball back in Carney's court of what he's going to do, and he's going to call an election. So there's still a lot to really take into consideration, even though, yes, it's spooky. Elizabeth May holds the power. However, you have to think about this.
I mean, that in itself deserves a drink of whiskey right now, honestly. Elizabeth May having the balance of power. Can you believe that, chat? Like, Elizabeth May.
Dude, it's insane, isn't it?
Oh, man.
But you got to think about that.
And it's funny because she's always drinking. That's her being nicknamed the drunk.
Though yes, Elizabeth May holds power, sure. I'm not terribly worried about this. Maybe call me delusional. But you think about it. Carney's already ticked her off after the last vote. And so she's already annoyed, saying, I'm never going to vote for these guys again, which we'll see what that actually means. But you have to keep in mind that Carney's still trying to, quote unquote, at least from the outside, bring people to the middle. And people like Elizabeth May are far left and don't really have any interest. So Carney's got to make a decision. He's either got to try to win over Elizabeth May and employ more far left ideas and push more far left bills, or he's going to have to try and keep the middle, as he's currently had in terms of like that boomer base that was going to vote with Pierre, and then they voted for him. He's going to have to make a decision, and he's going to be in a rock and a hard place on that one. So we'll see how that all plays out.
Yeah.
Knowing Carney, he doesn't understand that kind of politics. He thinks he's the CEO and anything he can do is the right thing. So I think he will keep doing what he's doing right now, and I think he will lose support left and right, everyone. Because he won't please everyone, and he tries to please too many people. If you try to please too many people, you end up failing.
It's a wild time to be in politics, honestly. I know you said earlier that you don't think that there's going to be any more floor crossers, and I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if they squeeze another one in. I know the Justice Committee kind of just adjourned until the new year, so there wouldn't be any reason to push that one through. I know that there's been a lot of push right now for some of the immigration bills and getting that through committee, and I know that some of the amendments that they actually agreed upon in committee between the Bloc, the Conservatives, and the Liberals, that they actually agreed to those amendments as soon as it went out of committee. All those amendments got tossed, and so it's like, what is the point of committee if you're going to just toss out the amendments that the committee made to agree on the bill? And like, this is where I get really annoyed when they're always like, the Conservatives just need to get on board. It's like, they are on board. They're actively working with you to get things, moved across the line that everybody can agree on. And then as soon as it moves out of committee, they drop all the amendments that were made on and agreed upon in committee, just to kind of.
It's because they act like they have a majority, and they don't. Even right now, after they cheat their way through a majority, they don't have a majority. It's just sickening, really.
Get it back where they wanted it anyway. And so one of those big amendments that they dropped was basically the idea that you could turn all the foreign worker visas into permanent residencies. And so that would mean literally millions of people could become residents overnight if the government made that a mandate, and based on this bill that they're trying to push through. So I could see where they're bringing on Mark Wiseman to allegedly bringing on Mark Wiseman to be the representative of Canada to the United States. I don't think that that's really going to be his role. I think his role is just to kind of get in there close to Carney and have an excuse to basically talk in his ear every 2 seconds. Of course, yeah. And so I think that, yeah, it's going to be, it's a situation where he's like a self-proclaimed, Millennium Project, or I can't remember the name of that project exactly. What was it called again? What's that, sorry?
Century Initiative.
Century Initiative, that's what it was. Yeah, so basically trying to...
That's something that was brought up in question period, and it's the idea to have so many people by the 22nd century. It's so disgusting. But I will let you guys watch that on your own if you become a member of their channel. This is a great content over here. So I will be moving on to the next segment, and I just realized I mislabeled one of the timestamp. I will need to go back and see in better detail the timestamps, because I just realized I kind of messed up kind of really hard on that one. So now let's get into the final reaction for today. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. The final reaction. There we go. I like her. She is very entertaining. And yeah, she spills truths the way it should be spilled. No filter. I like it.
If you don't like strong language, I suggest you move on, because I'm about to go off and pop off on the CBC. You see, we have a woman in Saskatchewan here who has a curable disease that was put on MAID. If you don't know what MAID is, it's medically assisted dying. And if you're like, why not? Because our healthcare system is absolute trash and shit. Never get public healthcare system, okay? So this is what happened. She needed a surgery. She couldn't get it in Saskatchewan. So her next option was to be flown into another province where she could get it done. But like the doctor that needs the referral isn't available because she's busy. So guess what they offered her? They offered her MAID, and she was approved for it. Now, Glenn Beck in the United States here hears about this and goes, absolutely not. We must save this woman's life. Like, clearly the Canadian system is failing, and it is. So he is offering to pay to actually bring her to the United States to save her life. And guess what the fucking CBC does? Guess what these pieces of garbage do? They start going after Glenn Beck, saying he's only doing this for popularity points. But I found the chick that actually wrote this article, this stupid biatch, the See You Next Tuesday, and I looked into everything that you write about. So let's actually analyze what is going on in Canada. So this starts off with why U.S. conservative pundit Glenn Beck is offering help to 6 Saskatchewan.
Just look at that headline. Just the headline itself, it's telling on where she's on the spectrum. She's probably far left or some crap like that. This is news? Is it really news? It's sickening. It's not to inform, it's to influence. It's really bad. That's not really journalists, but hey, they get money from the government, and the government says it's journalists. Perfect. Well, here we are.
A woman who applied for assisted death. Written by Ashwirara Duda, because she's doo-doo, because she's shit. Not because of your skin color, girl. Don't try that. It's because you're garbage. She wrote, McIntosh said this case aligns perfectly with Beck's political rhetoric. He said Beck is a longtime figure in America's far right, known for opposing public health care and criticizing Canada's single-payer system. He said this case was an opportunity for Beck to rile against public health care in general and MAID specifically. Oh my gosh, a normal person against medically assisted dying when you can actually save somebody? Oh,
and MAID is so nefarious. MAID is also telling basically whoever is on MAID is considered to give his organ. So they are organ donor. This is where we are at. That's why they promote so much MAID. And we live in a country that you will have a sign telling you life is worth living. If you think about ending your own life, talk to the phone. We got a line for you. But guess what? It's so sickening that they promote MAID in the same place. It's crazy. I don't understand Canada, really. I don't. We contradict ourselves so much.
My gosh, that is so bad. Yeah, it's definitely for political points. But what is it with you Canadians going after people who cannot afford living or are sad, or like in this case with Jolene, who can't get the help, always pushing people to MAID? What is it? Could it be this of what Justin Trudeau said? Remember when Justin Trudeau said this: the very concept of a nation funded by European settlers is offensive to me. Old stock white Canadians are an unpleasant relic and quite frankly replaceable, and we will replace them. Now,
and who's using the most MAID? Whites. Yes, I said it. You know why? We don't have religion anymore. This is exactly what they wanted.
let's imagine if Jolene was from India. What would this Duda chick write? She'd probably be like, oh my goodness, my people can't get help. Canadians are so racist, right? That's what you would write, because most of your articles are focused on immigration and also skin color. But yet it's so true that almost every Canadian is the one getting made. These white old stock Canadians are the ones being pushed. And you can get made if you're broke, if you're sad, if you can't afford to live in Canada, because the Liberal Canadian governments want to replace you with idiots like Duda.
But we are not racist, folks. We hate whites, but we are not racist. Hating whites is authorized.
There, I said it. I don't care who thinks that this is racist. It's the truth. And Duda here, along with the CBC, is literally writing an article about how broken our healthcare system is by saying it's not broken. It's the Americans' fault for seeing it.
And this marks the end. This marks the end. I enjoyed doing this stream. I wish we had a dragon around to bounce off someone else. I'm so proud of what we did. I'm really disgusted. The MOU was just theater. I kind of expected that from the guy that wrote Values. The new floor crossing was to be expected to some extent because it was not a true believer and the writing was really weird. And I think the most frustrating part is Liberals cheat their way to a undemocratic majority. I really hope once they get the challenge, the court challenge for Terrebonne, they will actually have the Liberal seat right now flipped to Bloc, because the Bloc would have won that seat if they didn't mess up during the elections. I don't agree with the Bloc, but at least they are kind of based, except for that C9 crap. I cannot support them on that. But this is what's going on. So coming next on the channel, a lot of things. Coming next on the channel, we will have gaming. We will have the Game Award as well, Monday. And I will be reacting to the Supergirl trailer we got this week. I'm very late on that one. I know, I'm sorry about that. I've just been so occupied. And at some point, I said Tuesday we would have Smallville Season 9 and 10. I don't know if it will be Tuesday. I know it will be this week. But maybe it will actually be Thursday instead of Tuesday. We will see how it goes. With that being said, that was another great stream of reacting to things. And see you next time. Have a great one. Take care.